Chapter 425. Everyone realized that the center of the cave was calm and undisturbed by the astral wind. Therefore, they rushed down with all their might. With the help of the Nine Heavens Gale Formation, Xianmen Tianzong and the others had the advantage of being one step ahead. However, they couldn't afford to waste any more time. If they wasted any more time, the people behind them would catch up with them. Therefore, Shi Tianhao didn't hold back. Wearing the flame dragon heavenly armor, he unleashed his full power. His 9 apertures golden elixir kept absorbing and releasing, transforming the massive amount of spiritual qi into magnificent dharma power. Zhu Yi waved his hand and wrote 2 glorious chapters, which contain the power to surpass all obstacles and limits. When the chapters were applied to Shi Tianhao, the little Shi Tianhao felt like he had eaten a great tonic. His strength became even stronger. Universe. Ian. Shi Tianhao didn't hesitate to use the first 2 chapters of the black-yellow forward formula at the same time. The vast power of the universe formula spread out, stabilizing the entire space and filling the surroundings. When the Ian formula was used, Liang Yuan, Shi Xingyun, and the others felt like they had turned into wooden statues. They couldn't speak, move, or listen. They couldn't even think. The 4 directions were called universe and Ian since ancient times. The combination of space and time, the universe and Ian became the most primitive world. The space inside the light shield at the center of the cave seemed to have become Shi Tianhao's world. In this world, he was the master, controlling time and space. With the help of the flame dragon heavenly armor, the great saints hide, and Zhu Yi's dharma power, Shi Tianhao used the universe and Ian formula at the same time to freeze the 4 people. 2 of them were middle Yuanying patriarchs. One was early Yuanying patriarchs who was much more powerful than his peers, and one was Shi Xingyun, who was at the late golden elixir realm, but was strong enough to challenge a Yuanying patriarch. All of them were frozen by Shi Tianhao's dharma power. So powerful. The 4 people were powerful and had strong dharma power. Their divine souls were also exceptionally tough. Under the suppression of the universe formula, they felt as if they couldn't move at all, and all the magic power in their bodies seemed to be frozen. And under the suppression of the Ian formula, their thoughts were much slower. Without any hesitation, the 4 of them used their most powerful dharma power to break free from Shi Tianhao's universe and Ian formula. Ancestor Snowy Peak and the disciple of Tao Master Ice Sea both used their mid-stage nascent soul realm cultivation to first shrink and then explode. Liang Yuan, on the other hand, pushed his immovable Buddha scripture to the limit of what he could cultivate. The golden light of the ancient Buddha fused into Liang Yuan's body. Liang Yuan opened his eyes, and a golden ancient Buddha appeared in his pupils. He formed hand seals and sat there motionlessly. A power intent that spanned across the ages seeped out, impervious to all evils and demons. No matter the environment, as he was as he Dharma. 11111 and all. With such a powerful dharma power, even Shi Tianhao's universe and Ian formula couldn't completely suppress him. Even though he was being suppressed, Liang Yuan still walked toward the center of the cavern with firm steps. On the other side, Shi Xingyun also used her trump card. The 5 elemental light dragons appeared and connected their heads and tails. The 5 elemental transformations exploded with shocking power. During the battle with Tao Yaoyao at the Wilderness Sea Assembly, she only defended and didn't attack. She fully displayed the defensive power of her dharma power. At this moment, she completely gave up on defense and unleashed the offensive power of her dharma power to the maximum. The 5 elemental light dragons white, green, black, red, and yellow gradually merged together and turned into a 5-colored halo. The halo crushed everything in its path. Everywhere it passed, the world created by Shi Tianhao was filled with cracks. At the center of the halo, there seemed to be an extremely terrifying life being nurtured. The 5 elemental transformations continued to pour energy into it. Even though Shi Tianhao had to fight against 4 people, he was not afraid. He was born with a 9 apertures golden elixir, and his dharma power was comparable to that of a Yuanying realm cultivator. His physical strength was also extremely strong. The dharma power of an ordinary cultivator in the golden elixir period would not be able to withstand the power of a primordial spirit dharma treasure. However, with the flame dragon heavenly armor, Shi Tianhao was not under too much pressure for the time being. At this moment, Zhu Yi and the others had already stepped onto the huge reef in the center of the spiritual formation. They rushed into the cavern on the reef. Don't follow us too closely. Shi Tianhao's body turned into a ray of red light, and shook off Liang Yuan and Patriarch Snowy Peak. Without waiting for Shi Xingyun and the other person to attack, he had already rushed into the cavern behind Zhu Yi and the others. Liang Yuan and Patriarch Snowy Peak looked gloomy. Without saying a word, they chased after him into the cavern. Shi Xingyun followed suit and thought to himself, even without the help of the armor treasure, he is still much stronger than before. The dual-pupiled person is really in trouble now. At the same time, under the protection of a few late-stage Yuanying patriarchs, the main group had finally left the astral wind layer and stepped onto the reef. Everyone's faces were covered in dust and they cursed in their hearts. Damn it! That brat, don't let me catch him. Otherwise, I will teach him a lesson. Outside the secret treasure, Lin Feng, riding Cloud Immortal, Dao Master Chang Lu, and the others were silently watching the illusionary scenes in front of them. The cultivators of the ice ocean who had not left the area were also secretly watching the scenes in the illusionary scenes. Lin Feng and the others did not care. When they saw that Shi Tianhao had deliberately triggered the restriction of the Kunpeng spiritual formation, the crowd was in an uproar. What is that brat trying to do? Is he crazy? Is it because his side has fallen behind and can't get the secret treasure, so he wants to destroy it so that no one can get it? Isn't that too wicked? Shut up. Can't you see that the master of the Xian sect is there? Do you want to die? Then they saw Zhu Yi and the others reveal the Nine Heavens astral wind formation. They easily passed through the astral wind and landed in front of the central cavern. For a moment, everyone was speechless. Damn it, how can you do this? Seeing this scene, Chao Wei and Dao Master Ice Ocean were expressionless. Northern militant Prince Shuxian looked like he had a toothache. Dao Master Chang Lu and Riding Cloud Immortal looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Dao Master Blue Thunder was also speechless. He turned to look at Lin Feng and said, "That is the Nine Heavens astral wind formation of the Wind God sect, right?" Lin Feng nodded and said, "Yes, it was damaged before. Although I did a simple repair, it was still not perfect. After all, a formation map needs a lot of special materials to be repaired. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself." Several Essence Soul Realm big shots rolled their eyes in their hearts. Make a fool of yourself? They were all fooled by Xianmen Tianzong. As soon as they landed on the reef in the center of the circular spirit array, the Dharma power imprints left by Lin Feng and the other big shots immediately lost the ability to perceive the outside world, leaving only the simplest spatial positioning ability. The light and shadow illusions in front of them disappeared one by one. Lin Feng and the others remained calm and thought to themselves, next is the real test. It depends on your own luck. At the same time, in the vast land of the Demon Clan, which was separated from the divine land by endless void space, in the northern border of the vast land of Tianhuang, there was a boundless sea. In the depths of the seawater gradually changed color. It was no longer blue, but gradually turned black. As they continued northward, the seawater completely turned black, but the water was not rotten and dirty. On the contrary, it was full of spiritual qi and many lives lived in it. There was a huge island in the middle of the Black Sea. It was vast, but rather than an island, it was more like a small piece of land. There was a huge nest on the island. It looked simple, but it was completely golden and extremely dazzling, not inferior to the sun in the sky at all. This was the habitat of the Kunpeng demons. From time to time, huge pungs would fly out from the golden nest, spreading their wings and covering the sky. The pungs circled in the sky, then folded their wings and rushed straight into the Black Sea. As soon as they entered the water, they turned into huge black fish. Whales were like small shrimps in front of them. At the same time, some black fish leaped out of the sea. After leaving the water, they turned into huge green pungs. They spread their wings and shook off the water droplets on their bodies, causing a storm on the sea. The green pungs flapped their wings and flew up into the sky. In the Kunpeng nest, a huge green pung folded its wings and looked at the sky motionlessly. It was even bigger than ordinary Kunpengs. Beside it, there was also a group of huge Kuanpungs that had turned into pungs. Silently, one of the Kuanpungs said, "Father, is the time right?" The largest Kuanpung was the current leader of the Kuanpung demons, the current great sage Kuanpung who had cultivated the immortal demon soul. "Yes, today we will bring back the remains and treasures of our ancestors," the great sage Kuanpung said. He looked down at his son and said, "Hey you, my son, are you ready?" In front of him was the young master of the Kuanpung tribe, the Black Feather Kuanpung. He had already formed his demon infant and reached the demon king realm. He nodded calmly and said, "Yes, father, I have been waiting for this moment." The great sage Kuanpung said, "Yes, we have been waiting for this moment." The other Kuanpungs all lowered their heads, their wings trembling slightly, full of excitement and joy. The great sage Kuanpung turned his head and looked at his shoulder. There was a small golden dot there. Compared to the huge body of the Kuanpung, it was so small that it was almost unnoticeable. But the demonic power fluctuations in it were so strong that only the great sage Kuanpung and a few old Kuanpungs could defeat it. Even the young master of the Kuanpung tribe, Heiyu, was slightly inferior to it. It was a black phoenix, and its feathers were flashing with a golden radiance. Milky white flames flickered faintly in its eyes. The great sage Kuanpung said, "I will leave the 10,000 years mysterious ice to you." The black phoenix said in a clear voice, "Kuanpung great sage, there's no need to be so courteous. Since I'm here, I'll definitely lend you a hand. It's just that we've agreed beforehand that I'll go in and take the treasure out myself. I hope Kuanpung great sage will forgive me." The great sage Kuanpung said, "Don't worry. You can go in with my son Heiyu. When you find what you want, he will send you out." The black phoenix nodded, and then the great sage Kuanpung let out a long cry. "Then let us begin. Kuanpung blood sacrifice, to bring back our ancestors." He rushed out of the Kuanpung nest, flapping his wings and flying high. His wings spanned thousands of miles. Dazzling golden light flashed on his body, and endless talismans floated in the golden light. The great sage Kuanpung looked straight at the sky above his head. Suddenly, blood flowed out of his eye sockets. These blue drops of blood quickly evaporated in the golden light, turning into clouds of mist. The golden light shot up into the sky, piercing through the void. In the void, there were countless spatial turbulences, layer upon layer, in a frenzy. But the clouds formed by the great sage Kuanpung's blood essence meandered forward, gradually forming a golden path. Chapter 426. In the sky above the Kuanpung nest, the Kuanpung great sage opened a crack in the void. The blue clouds formed by his blood essence glowed with golden light and slowly extended forward in the chaotic void, finally turning into a strange road. The path wasn't perfectly straight. On the contrary, it traversed through layers of spatial turbulence, twisting and turning without any rules to speak of. Some places made a sharp 180-degree turn, while others spiraled upwards. The road stretched to a certain point and suddenly made a turn, but soon turned again, leaving a strange zigzag in the air. The road slowly extended like this, constantly passing through the endless void. If one looked closely, they would find that at the front of the road, there was a faint golden line connecting it. The source of the golden line was hidden in the void turbulence, so it could not be seen clearly. Under the guidance of the golden thread, the path formed by the red clouds continued to stretch out. No one knew how long the golden line was, or where its source was. The line was so faint that it did not seem real. It did not even have a physical body, but was a ray of light formed by the power of the divine sense. Finally, the golden line came to an end. The cloud road continued forward, as if it had opened a door. Quietly, a huge crack appeared in the space. On the other side of the crack was the divine land of the human race, and what blocked the crack was the 10,000-year Xian ice in the Arctic ice sea. The 10,000-year Xian ice froze everything, not to mention tangible matter and life, invisible Dharma power and spirit chi. Even time and space were frozen. However, through the power of the blood sacrifice, the Kuanpung great sage paid a great price, and finally established a connection with the Kuanpung treasure in the Xian ice. This was something only the Kuanpung great sage could do, because inside the Xian ice was the ancestor who had inherited his bloodline. Two great demons who had achieved the immortal demon soul realm were directly connected by their bloodline. Seeing the 10,000-year Xian ice, the Kuan-Peng great sage said in a low voice, "My son He, go on your way. I will maintain this blood sacrifice road for you, so that you can return to infinite wilderness. Father, don't worry. I will return very soon and kill all those humans who dared to violate our ancestors' heroic spirit." Rock-Young clan master He nodded and flew high into the sky. The Black Phoenix also flew up with him. The two outstanding bird-kind demons stepped onto the cloud path formed by the blood essence of the great sage Kuan-Peng, traversed the void, and flew towards the secret treasure of the great sage Kuan-Peng in the divine land. The great sage of Kuan-Peng hovered in the air, maintaining the stability of the path with his own blood essence and demonic power. His eyes were fixed on the crack in the void above his head, and he said, "Old friend, thank you for guarding me. Green Heaven Kuan-Peng is grateful." In the distant sky, a strong wave of magic power came, and the power was even stronger than the Kuan-Peng great sage. "Green Heaven, you and I have known each other for 4,000 years, so there is no need to say anything else. I will guard this place for you, but the divine land depends on your Kuan-Peng race. My daughter is traveling with your son, so I hope you can guarantee her safety." Slowly, the great sage Kuan-Peng said, "Don't worry, my son He is ready to sacrifice himself. He will definitely be able to bring back the ancestors. When the time comes, no one can stop him from returning to infinite wilderness through the blood sacrifice road I have set up." On the cloud path, a Kuan-Peng and a Black Phoenix arrived at the end of the path, where the 10,000-year Xian ice was exuding a chilly air. The son of the great sage Kuan-Peng, He stopped, turned to look at the Black Phoenix, who was flashing with golden light, and said, "Mou, it's up to you." The Black Phoenix let out a clear cry, and the milky white flames in its eyes flickered twice. Then, it opened its beak and spat out a milky white flame. As soon as the flame landed on the 10,000-year Xian ice, the ice that even the great sage Kuan-Peng could not do anything to immediately began to melt. Seeing this, He nodded in his heart. The Phoenix race not only controls the pure young true fire, but all of them are extremely powerful. Although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that without the pure young true fire, Mou is also stronger than me as a late-stage demon king. The milky white flame that the demonic phoenix Mou spat out was the pure young true fire, one of the 7 supreme flames in the world. The pure young true fire was the ancestor of all flames, the source and ancestor of all flames in the great heaven primordial world. It was the purest flame that could fuse with many other flames and subdue all evil. At the same time, the pure young true fire was also one of the few pure young items in the world. Although it did not seem as violent as the nether evil flame, it was actually the purest and thickest. It could even fight against the nether evil flame. Since ancient times, the pure young true fire had always been controlled by the Phoenix race in the infinite wilderness land of the demon realm. The Kuan-Peng race and the Phoenix race had a deep friendship. As early as 10,000 years ago, the ancestor of the Kuan-Peng who died in the divine land had a close relationship with the experts of the Phoenix race at that time. When he went to the divine land, he brought a treasure of the Phoenix clan with him. After he died, this treasure was lost in the human world. This time, the Phoenix clan helped him. On one hand, it was because of their friendship, and on the other hand, it was necessary to find the treasure. Under the roasting of the pure young true fire, the 10,000-year Xian ice quickly melted, and a deep passage was burned out. The path formed by the essence and blood of the great sage Kuan-Peng continued to extend inside the Xian ice. When the Xian ice completely disappeared, the void suddenly turned pitch black. The next moment, a golden light lit up in the darkness and connected with the path of clouds, turning into a huge door. "Let's go." Without hesitation, He and Mou rushed into the golden door together. On the other side of the door was the Kuan-Peng secret treasure. When the great sage Kuan-Peng had just begun the blood sacrifice, he and Mou had melted the mysterious ice with the pure yang true fire. But when the golden gate opened, Lin Feng and the others, who had been paying close attention to the movements of the hidden treasure, immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Didn't you say that there was only one entrance?" Northern militant Wuxian king frowned. Dao Master Changel, who had always been smiling, couldn't laugh at this moment. He looked at the Kuan-Pung secret treasure with a serious expression. There was indeed only one entrance, but now someone has opened a new one. Opening a new entrance in the small world without causing any changes in the small world. This means that the two powers are of the same origin. Chao Wei said in a deep voice. Only the Kuan-Pung in the infinite wilderness land can do this. Riding Cloud Immortal said silently. I'm afraid it's not only the Kuan-Pung. Even if he communicated with the secret treasure through the bloodline connection, he still has to break the Xian ice if he wants to go in. I'm afraid that even the Phoenix clan is involved in this. Although his tone was flat, his expression was as serious as Dao Master Changle's. Since the death of the Kuan-Pung with the third layer of the immortal demon soul 10,000 years ago, the Kuan-Pung demon clan had actually suffered a great loss. Compared with the current Kuan-Pung clan, the Phoenix clan was much stronger. In the infinite wilderness land, the most active and popular great demons were undoubtedly the 10 sages of the demon clan. However, there were still many great sages of the demon clan who lived in seclusion. Among them, the Phoenix clan was an example. The Phoenix clan was noble and proud. They stayed away from disputes and rarely participated in the racial war between the human clan and the demon clan. Their relationship with the divine land of the human clan was also relatively harmonious. Even the 3 holy lands in the past were unwilling to completely push the Phoenix clan to the opposite side. It was because the Phoenix clan was extremely powerful, and there were many experts in the clan. It was rumored that the Phoenix clan had more than one great demon with the third layer of the immortal demon soul. The demon realm was in constant disputes and swallowed other forces, but the Enchantress and the others had never thought of attacking the Phoenix clan. The Kuan-Pung demon clan had been able to guarantee that it would not be swallowed by other demon clans for thousands of years after the death of its ancestor. To a large extent, it was because of the protection of the Phoenix clan. We can't lose the Kuan-Pung treasure. Let's go down. Dao Master Changle said in a deep voice. Lin Feng said. Even if the direct descendants are connected by blood, it's not easy to cross the endless void and open up a path between Tianhuang mainland and the vast land of the Divine Prefecture. Let's cut off their retreat first. As Lin Feng said, a light spot flew out from between his eyebrows. The light spot rapidly expanded and turned into countless rays of light. Then these rays of light quickly formed a huge Dharma array with strange trajectories and rules. In the Dharma array, countless mysterious rune formation diagrams rose and fell one after another. They combined together and converged into a huge pattern. This pattern was black and white and yin and yang opposite each other, full of majestic power. The next moment, the huge Dharma array fell into the black vortex above the entrance of the secret treasure and merged with it. Lin Feng pinched a spell with his right hand and shouted in a low voice. Yin and yang life and death array open. 6 paths of life and death, change of heaven and earth, rise. Endless yellow light and purple chi gushed out of the Dharma array and turned into the sky and the earth. They were in harmony and balance. Between heaven and earth, all things were born and formed a complete world. In the black vortex, the golden light originally shot up to the sky, but at this moment, the golden light gradually dimmed and turned into a white light, covering the entire small kiliocosm of the Kuan-Pung treasure. In the white light, light and shadow changed, forming a myriad of phenomena. It was like the beginning of the world. The sea flowed, the wilderness changed, and all things grew. At this moment, the yin and yang life and death array and the small kiliocosm of the Kuan-Pung seemed to be integrated into a whole, like an egg. The small kiliocosm of the Kuan-Pung was the hatchling inside the egg, and the power of the yin and yang life and death array wrapped it like an eggshell. You can follow me into the Dharma array. Lin Feng walked into the white light first. Taoist Master Changle and other primordial spirit big shots looked at each other, and also walked in decisively. Under the control of Lin Feng, the space in the Dharma array moved. Soon, they arrived at the new entrance of the small kiliocosm opened by Kuan-Pung Great Sage through the blood sacrifice. Blocked by the white light of the yin and yang life and death array, the red cloud path was suddenly cut off from the golden light gate. The power of the small kiliocosm repaired itself, and the golden light gate was about to close. Kuanping Great Sage was naturally unwilling to give up. He continued to urge his blood essence and demonic power, and the flashing golden cloud path kept attacking the white light of the yin and yang life and death array. Seeing this, Cloud Riding Immortal said silently, "Wishful thinking." He clapped his palms gently, and a pure white cloud passed through the brilliance of the yin and yang life and death formation, and met the cloud path of the great sage Kuanping. The two sides collided, and both clouds, one gold and one white, shook violently. A clear and melodious phoenix cry came from the void of the vast land of infinite region again. "Do you need me to help?" "No, just help me guard against the threat from other demon clans." Kuanping Great Sage was not flustered. "As long as my son Heiyu enters the core of the secret treasure, there is no need to worry about the divine land." Chapter 427. Seeing that Kuanping Great Sage's cloud path was unstable under the attack of Riding Cloud Immortal, everyone gradually relaxed. Tao Master Blue Thunder looked at the cloud path formed by Kuanping Great Sage's blood essence, then at the melted thousand-year mysterious ice, and finally looked back at the closing golden gate. Silently sensing the remaining demonic power, he said, "Some demons have entered. Well, 2 late-stage demon kings, a Kuanping and a phoenix. As long as it's not a great saint-level demon, even if it enters the secret treasure, our disciples can deal with it." Tao Master Changla said, "Let's completely cut off the connection between Kuanping and the divine land to prevent more demons from breaking in." Lin Feng frowned slightly. The power of the bloodline directly sent the young Kuanping to the core of the secret treasure, even deeper than our disciples. At this moment, his mind was completely connected with the yin and yang life and death formation, which was now closely integrated with the secret treasure, so his perception of the situation in the secret treasure was far stronger than before. Something is wrong. The secret treasure seems to have changed. Thinking of this, Lin Feng communicated with Kuanping's secret treasure through the yin and yang life and death formation. After carefully sensing, he vaguely found Shi Tianhao and the others. Kuanping's magic power interfered before, so they couldn't contact each other, but now it didn't matter. Lin Feng immediately crushed a sound transmission crystal. "Be careful, a Kuanping and a phoenix have broken into the secret treasure, both late-stage demon kings." After a pause, Lin Feng said, "Kuanping can hide with the power of the bloodline. Even I can't detect its specific whereabouts, but I can vaguely sense that they have entered the core area of the secret treasure, deeper than you. And they seem to have special treasures. I can feel that the Kuanping's secret treasure is undergoing special changes." Shi Tianhao and the others answered in unison. After ending the call with Lin Feng, Zhui said in a deep voice, "Speed up, don't waste time on unimportant things." Tunten and Zhuge Fengling's faces fell at the same time. One of them was stuffing food, and the other was rummaging. "Let's go. There are even better things ahead." Shi Tianhao was not tall, but his strides were large. He grabbed Tunten and Zhuge Fengling with each hand and quickly advanced, heading deeper into the treasure. Soon, a dark red door appeared in front of everyone. The black water on the door formed a ring that flowed continuously. At the same time, there was a storm brewing within it. As the golden light flashed, one after another mysterious characters floated in the light. Shi Tianhao pushed the door, but it did not budge. Zhui took out the Kuanping's true blood, and the blue blood blended into the black water. The golden words on the door began to sway, constantly changing their arrangement, forming paragraphs and paragraphs of incantations. Just as the door was about to open, the golden light suddenly blazed fiercely. Waves of ancient beasts roared, incomparably violent and ferocious. The next moment, the incantation suddenly changed, and the door became motionless. Not only did it stop opening, but the golden light gradually shrank and pressed against the door, as if it had completely locked the door. There was no need to think too much. The Xianmen Tianzong and the others said in unison, "Someone got in first." Kong Nanhua said in a low voice, "The human race cultivators that came in with us are all behind us. The possibility of them getting in first is very small. The ones inside are most likely the Kuanping and Phoenix that sect master mentioned." "It's very likely." Shi Tianhao nodded. Facing the completely sealed door, He directly smashed it with the 8 trigram sky-collapsing hammer. Amidst the rumble, the golden light wavered but did not dissipate. The dark red door still did not budge. The Kuan-Peng's true blood is useless. Everyone prepare to break the door by force, said Zhu Yi as the great light and dark mandala boundary appeared under his feet, lifting him up. On the other side of the door was a huge hall. A Kuan-Peng and a black phoenix stood side by side in the middle of the hall. The Kuan-Peng was naturally the young master of the Kuan-Peng demon race, Heiyu, and beside him was the demonic phoenix Mou. Heiyu was still in his original form of the Kuan-Peng, but his body size had shrunk a lot. He became as tall as Mou beside him. He retracted his wings and stood on the ground at a height of about 6 feet. In front of the two demons was a huge pool. The pool was filled with liquid. It was completely golden and emitted a dazzling light. In the golden liquid, the shadow of a Kuan-Peng was faintly bobbing up and down. It was not a real entity, but an illusory light shadow. When it sank into the golden liquid, it turned into a huge black fish. When it surfaced from the golden liquid, it turned into an azure peng. It spread its wings and was about to fly. This light shadow was not the true spirit of the ancient Kuan-Peng, nor was it its soul. At best, it could only be regarded as a soul shell. Silently looking at this light shadow, Heiyu's golden eyes were filled with many complicated emotions. He lowered his proud head and kowtowed to the light shadow of the Kuan-Peng in the golden pool. The sound of Shi Tianhao and the others colliding came from outside the door. Heiyu did not care at all. He opened his mouth and spat out a square spirit stone. The spirit stone floated in the air with his demonic energy. The energy fluctuation it emitted was not strong, but it had a unique and profound feeling. When Mou, who had been calm and indifferent, saw the spirit stone, his eyes also flickered. This is the fate-defying heaven stone. It has always been thought to exist only in legends. I didn't expect you to really find it. Silently, Heiyu said. Actually, even we thought that this thing only existed in legends. It was only when we really got our hands on it that we dared to confirm that it was really the fate-defying heaven stone. Originally, I thought that obtaining the ancestors' inheritance was the greatest harvest. But the appearance of the fate-defying heaven stone made my Kuan-Peng clan look forward to more things. Mou glanced in the direction of the door. Do you need me to protect you? Heiyu shook his head. No need. The ancestors' restriction is not something those humans can break. But you don't need to leave in a hurry. After the ceremony starts, I will have initial control of this place. At that time, I will directly send you to the place where you put the things. Hearing this, Mou did not say anything. He turned to look at Heiyu. After a while, he asked faintly, at that time, will you still be you? Heiyu did not answer. He just controlled the square fate-defying heaven stone to sink directly into the golden pool. Then he flew up and jumped into the pool. As soon as he entered the water, Heiyu immediately turned into a giant Kuan and floated in the water like the light shadow. When he sank into the water, he turned into a Kuan, and when he came to the surface, he turned into a Peng again. He made a series of sounds, which were unique to the Kuan-Peng clan. The meaning was difficult to understand, but he was silently reciting a passage of scripture. Only the Kuan-Peng could understand the meaning. Defying fate and reincarnating, the heavenly soul summons. I offer my soul to the ancestor's spirit. The golden divine liquid in the pool fluctuated violently as if it was boiling. Suddenly, a white mist emerged from the fate-defying heaven stone at the bottom of the golden pool, and wrapped around the Kuan-Peng light shadow and Heiyu. After the white mist entered Heiyu's body, blue threads extended out of his body, and flowed into the fate-defying heaven stone along with the white mist. Then they flowed out of the fate-defying heaven stone, and also flowed into the faint Kuan-Peng light shadow along the white mist. Silently watching this scene, Mou said calmly, the fate-defying contract, the soul-returning ritual. It is an ancient legendary Dharma spell that exists together with the fate-defying heaven stone in Infinite Region. Today, I have the chance to see it. It is indeed magical. The ceremony in front of him was the real Kuan-Peng blood sacrifice. Heiyu's blood essence was continuously extracted, but he looked calm and peaceful without the slightest hint of pain, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. On the other side, the The Kuan-Peng light shadow gradually thickened and became clearer. After an unknown period of time, the blood transfer ended. Under the guidance of the fate-defying Heavenstone, the Kuan-Peng light shadow came to He Yu's side, and the two gradually fused into one. After fusing into one, it was not the Kuan-Peng light shadow that occupied He Yu's body. On the contrary, He Yu's body gradually turned from a physical body to a spiritual body like the Kuan-Peng light shadow. Most demons did not refine Dharma treasures or Dharma artifacts because their original bodies were the most powerful weapons. It was the same for He Yu. But now his powerful late-stage demon king body had silently turned into a spiritual body in the golden pool. The two Kuan-Pengs fused into one and became extremely condensed, as if they were corporeal. However, as they floated in the golden pool, they gradually faded. Specks of light continued to float out from the Kuan-Peng's shadow and spread out in the air. Those light spots were as small as fireflies. When they touched the walls, ceiling, and floor of the hall, they directly merged into them. More and more light spots merged into the hall. In the end, the entire hall shone brightly, and the space became golden. A long roar came faintly from afar, as if it was close to one's ear, but also seemed to be separated by endless space. It seemed to be only a moment, but it also seemed to last for countless years. It was like an invincible demon god in ancient times, who looked down on the world, woke up at this moment after a long sleep. An extremely powerful spiritual will manifested in the small world of the Kuan-Peng's secret treasure. Everyone could feel the shocking power. It seemed that as long as the owner of this will wanted to, he could immediately decide their fate. It was like an ant facing an elephant. Without stepping on it, the ant's world would collapse with just a stomp. Outside the spirit space, Lin Feng and the others all changed their expressions. They looked at the Kuan-Peng's secret treasure wrapped in the white light of the yin and yang life and death formation in shock. An amazing power burst out from it. In the darkness, a pair of eyes seemed to open. The 10,000-year dark ice that sealed the secret treasure was shaking. It was not like the passage opened by the true fire, which only melted a part of the dark ice. Instead, the whole glacier, the whole Arctic ice sea was shaking. The pair of eyes emitted brilliant golden light, like two small suns. But there was no warmth in them. They stared at Lin Feng and the others, making them feel cold. Even if they had reached the primordial soul realm, being stared at by this pair of eyes would make their hair stand on end. The group of primordial soul realm big shots all looked serious. Even the current Kuan-Peng Great Saint doesn't have such power. That primordial Kuan-Peng has been resurrected, but how is it possible? He was clearly dead. His spirit collapsed. His real spirit perished, and the remains of his body turned into the secret treasure. It is impossible for him to be resurrected. Chapter 428. When humans reached the essence soul realm and the demon clan cultivated the immortal demon soul, their lifespans naturally became extremely long, almost infinite. But this did not mean that they were immortal. They could still be killed by powerful external forces. Like the Golden Crow Great Sage, his body was destroyed and his true spirit was taken away, leaving only a remnant soul. However, he was still alive and had the possibility of being reborn. It was just that whether he could regain his former strength was another matter. However, the ancient Kuan-Peng's true spirit and remnant soul were completely obliterated, leaving only the remains of its body. In this case, it could not be more dead. The demon power contained in its remains turned into the Kuan-Peng secret treasure in front of them. But now, Lin Feng and the others clearly felt that the great demon that dominated the world in the past had been resurrected. Even the Kuan-Peng Great Sage did not have such great power. In front of this demon, he was like a child. In the yin and yang life and death array, there was an extremely terrifying demon power fluctuation that was about to turn the world upside down and reverse yin and yang. The secret small world was gradually separated from the space, and its structure was constantly changing. It was integrated into the divine land and the vast thousand worlds. A black dot that seemed to be incomparably huge, but also looked extremely small, appeared in front of Lin Feng and the others. The shape of the black dot gradually changed and showed the appearance of a Kuan-Peng, like an embryo that was constantly being formed. The yin and yang life and death array really became its eggshell. Next, when it completely matured, it would inevitably break out of the shell. During the incubation process, the Kuan-Peng's body became smaller, and it actually broke out of the ice around it. The freezing power of the Xian ice would seal the life inside. Simply changing the size of the body would not be able to escape. However, during the awakening process, the Kuan-Peng produced a kind of vigorous power to create a new life, cleverly dispelling the freezing power of the Xian ice. After getting rid of the Xian ice, the Kuan-Peng immediately flew out along the passage that the phoenix Pure Yang True Fire had burned in the glacier. At the end of the passage was the space crack that connected the demon clan to the infinite wilderness. The black dot passed through the white light of the yin and yang life and death array. Dao Master Blue Thunder stared at the black dot and said in a deep voice, "It is said that there is a secret method in the infinite wilderness that can use the purest direct bloodline power of the descendants to resurrect the ancestors of the demon clan. But this is only a legend in the infinite wilderness. For countless years, no one has ever been able to do it, but now it seems." Northern militant Prince Swordsmanship let out a long sigh. Now it seems that the legend is true, and it's very unfortunate that we ran into it. He turned his head and looked at Lin Feng. "Master of the Celestial Gate of Wonders, please open the formation and let us in. We must destroy him again before he completely returns, otherwise the power of the third level of the undying demon soul is too strong." Lin Feng's hands changed hand signs and the yin and yang life and death formation shone with white light, once again repelling the cloud bridge formed by the blood essence of the great sage Kuan-Peng on the infinite wasteland's side, and also swapping Cloud Immortal who was fighting with him just now. He gently clapped his hands and the yin and yang life and death array changed, sending Master Swordsmanship, Dao Master Blue Thunder, Prince Swordsmanship, and the others to the center of the array. The group of Essence Soul powerhouses did not hold back when facing the awakening ancient Kuan-Peng, and immediately attacked. Their disciples were now in the belly of the Kuan-Peng. Once the Kuan-Peng was completely resurrected, all the cultivators in its belly would die in an instant. Dao Master Chang'e and the others even secretly rejoiced that they had listened to Lin Feng, and did not blindly enter the secret treasure world. Otherwise, they would also be trapped in the Kuan-Peng's belly. The Kuan-Peng's belly was a world created by the Kuan-Peng. Even Essence Soul experts would be in great danger if they were swallowed. Their power would be suppressed and they would not be able to use more than 30% of their power. But now, the few Essence Soul realm powerhouses were fighting against the Kuan-Peng with various means. The Kuan-Peng was still in a state of ignorance and had not been resurrected. Dao Master Chang'e and the others still had the ability to fight. Several Essence Soul realm cultivators did not dare to be careless when facing the ancient Kuan-Peng, which was at the third level of the immortal demon soul. Even if the Kuan-Peng was half dead, they immediately showed their Essence Soul incarnations. The cloud-riding immortal turned into a vast sea of clouds that instantly covered the entire yin and yang life and death array. Dao Master Blue Thunder entered the white sea of clouds that the cloud-riding immortal had turned into. The next moment, the white sea of clouds turned dark and completely black. In the dark clouds, bluish-purple lightning flashed continuously, and there was a series of explosions. The sound of thunder was like the beating of war drums. From time to time, a blue lightning dragon would poke its head out of the dark sea of clouds, revealing its scales and claws, but it would soon disappear. Thousands of brontosaurus were constantly shuttling in the sea of clouds, rising and falling, but the powerful fluctuations of Dharma power shocked everything in the world. On the other side, Dao Master Chang'e had already turned into a 200 feet tall giant with a dragon's head and a human body. He was surrounded by blue light and a thick breath of life was revealed. The Blue Dragon Emperor. Dao Master Chang'e had obtained the Dao from the Blue Dragon Emperor's book in the Great Qin Dynasty's 5 Emperors' True Dragon manuscripts. The incarnation he obtained was the body of the Blue Dragon Emperor. Thunder had the effect of transforming and stimulating all things. Under the nourishment of the thunder in the dark clouds, Dao Master Chang'e's incarnation of the Blue Dragon Emperor became more and more powerful. He did not launch an attack himself, but directly attached himself to the northern militant Prince Swordsmanship. The northern militant Prince Swordsmanship was powerful in martial arts. Now that he had the help of Dao Master Chang'e, His strength had more than doubled. With a wave of his hand, the void was torn apart, and the violent power shook slightly, causing all the surrounding spiritual qi to explode. Boom! Prince Wuxian had already smashed through the space and arrived in front of the ancient Kunpeng. His right leg swept out and the spiritual qi in the space was constantly shattered, heavily bombarding the body of the Kunpeng. At the same time, Cloud Riding Immortal and Dao Master Blue Thunder also launched a powerful attack. In the sky full of thunderclouds, lightning flashed and thunder roared, forming a sea of thunder. Dense lightning dragons hit the body of the Kunpeng like a storm. Chao Wei and Dao Master Ice Sea did not take the initiative to attack, but they both added their own Dharma power to the thousand-year dark ice, guiding the extremely cold power of the thousand-year dark ice into the yin and yang life and death formation. Then with this power, they limited the extremely fast speed of the Kunpeng, creating an opportunity for Prince Wuxian and Dao Master Blue Thunder to attack. Although the several primordial soul powerhouses had never worked together, and some of them were even hostile to each other, at this moment, they joined forces and created an extremely powerful attack with great tacit understanding. But unfortunately, the ancient Kunpeng was even more powerful. In the face of the powerful attack that blotted out the sky, the black dot suddenly stopped. In the midst of flying at an extremely fast speed, it suddenly stopped, and then the seemingly small black dot instantly filled the world. The mighty and vigorous power of the Kunpeng swept out violently, instantly sweeping away the thunderclouds and lightning. He transformed into the form of a Kun and swung his tail. Instantly, the entire world trembled. The originally ferocious northern militant Prince Wuxian, who was like a primordial beast, was directly sent flying when facing the real great demon Hong Huang. Dao Master Changle's blue dragon emperor body was also beaten away from Prince Wuxian. In the blink of an eye, the Kun turned into the form of a peng. With a flap of its wings, even the extremely cold power of the thousand-year dark ice could not bind it in a hurry. In the process of accelerating, the Kunpeng's body shrank again, turning into a small black dot and flying at an extremely fast speed. Dao Master Blue Thunder said, "He is still in a state of ignorance, and his consciousness is not clear. He is only relying on the power of the bloodline to instinctively fly to the infinite region, where his clansmen are." As he spoke, the Kunpeng suddenly changed its flying direction, turned in the air, and instantly rushed to the side of Prince Wuxian. "Humans who covet my remains, you will all become my food. Humans who covet my ancestors' legacy, you will all die." In the space, two voices sounded at the same time, overlapping and echoing. Just his voice alone was enough to cause the space around him to tremble and crack to appear. His consciousness is also beginning to awaken. Dao Master Blue Thunder's expression changed drastically. "Prince Wuxian, retreat quickly." Prince Wuxian had just exchanged a blow with the Kunpeng and was directly sent flying. Even with his powerful physical body, he felt as if his body was about to fall apart. Seeing the Kunpeng rushing over, he hurriedly retreated, but a terrifying claw had already grabbed him. Prince Wuxian's essence soul incarnation and body were one. His long-distance essence soul flying speed was not comparable to that of ordinary essence soul cultivators, but in a short distance his speed was faster. However, the Kunpeng's claw grabbed the entire space, and its claw seemed to be able to extend infinitely. No matter how Prince Wuxian tried to escape, he was always within the range of the claw. The claw closed, covering the sky, and immediately grabbed Prince Wuxian. Prince Wuxian shouted with his eyes wide open, and the blood and qi in his body surged. He punched out, and the violent power even blasted the space into chaos. However, the Kunpeng's claw was even more terrifying. Even the chaotic turbulence could be grabbed. Prince Wuxian struggled to resist the Kunpeng's demonic power, but he was still in great pain. He felt as if his entire body was about to shatter. This was under the condition that the ancient Kunpeng's power had not completely recovered. Otherwise, just this claw alone could directly kill a dignified essence soul cultivator. At this moment, when they were working together to fight against the monster clan, the others would not sit back and watch Prince Wuxian be trapped. They all used their magical powers to attack the Kunpeng. "What a monster!" Dao Master IC shouted and revealed his essence soul incarnation, which turned into a vast ice sea. Facing the attack of Tao Master IC, the Kunpeng did not dodge. It actually opened its mouth like a black hole, and directly swallowed the vast IC that stretched for thousands of miles. The iceberg the size of an island, mixed with countless amounts of seawater, was all swallowed by the Kunpeng. This IC was the essence soul incarnation of Tao Master IC, and it was completely swallowed by the Kunpeng. Although it was not to the extent of dying immediately, it was in the same dangerous situation as Prince Wuxia. All die. The Kunpeng let out a long cry and increased the strength of its claw. Bang, 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 crack, crack, crack. The sound of a bowstring snapping and the sound of steel shattering rang out continuously. Prince Wuxia, who was grabbed by the Kunpeng, let out a shocking roar. Blood spurted out of his 7 orifices, and his muscles and bones were crushed by the Kunpeng. A martial arts expert in the essence soul realm could tear the void and crush the earth with his physical strength, but at this moment, he was forcibly grabbed to death by the Kunpeng. The remaining people all gasped. In just the blink of an eye, 2 experts who had reached the essence soul realm, one was grabbed to death, and the other was swallowed. They were not far from death. Its ferocity was monstrous and extremely vicious. Chapter 429. As time went by, Kunpeng's power grew stronger and stronger, gradually returning to its heyday. Obviously, he did not intend to let anyone go. With Prince Wuxia in his claws, he flapped his wings and rushed toward the others. Kunpeng was the top of the bird-type demon clan when he transformed into a peng. Few people could match his flying speed. If he wanted to chase and kill, no one could escape. The fate-defying Heaven Stone. Combining the information provided by Tao Master Blue Thunder and others, Lin Feng gradually figured out the reason for the resurrection of the ancient Kunpeng. After thinking for a while, he finally took action, but not directly against Kunpeng in the formation. Lin Feng's target was the cloud path formed by Kunpeng Great Sage's essence blood in the space turbulence outside the formation. The power of the yin and yang life and death formation spread out, and suddenly rolled up the front of the cloud path. Heavenly Realm Barrier. Lin Feng held his left hand like a saber and chopped down. The power of the Heavenly Realm Barrier combined with the power of the yin and yang life and death formation. The yin and yang life and death formation seemed to have transformed into a ferocious beast. It opened its mouth and swallowed the cloud path, then bit down hard. A part of the cloud path was directly cut off and left in the yin and yang life and death formation. Kunpeng Great Sage in the vast land of Infinite Region was shocked. The divine sense of the cloud path was mainly a guiding method, not a fighting method. However, it was so easily broken and the essence blood was taken away. He was shocked. Who is it? Without the support of Kunpeng Great Sage, the cloud path suddenly dissipated and turned into surging blue essence blood. This essence blood belonged to Kunpeng Great Sage, who had achieved the immortal demon soul realm. It was completely different from the essence blood that Lin Feng obtained from Kuan-Yue ancestor. Falling into the yin and yang life and death formation, the essence blood did not dissipate. Instead, it gathered together and gradually turned into the shape of Kunpeng. It was about to become a doppelganger of Kunpeng Great Sage. Of course, Lin Feng would not give him this opportunity. The power of the Heavenly Realm Barrier was launched again, completely cutting off the connection between Kunpeng Great Sage and the essence blood. The yin and yang life and death formation trapped the blood essence completely and quickly refined it, erasing the Kunpeng Great Sage's divine sense imprint. While he was distracted, he felt that the power of the ancient Kunpeng in the formation was getting stronger and stronger. If it were not for Tao Master Chang'e and the others fighting against it, the yin and yang life and death formation would have been shattered. Lin Feng glanced at it and thought, Xiao Budian and the others are still in this fellow's stomach. If it wasn't like this, I would have directly driven Mount Yujing into it. Right now, I can only use a slightly more troublesome method. I can only hope that my guess is correct. The iron tree clone appeared beside him. Lin Feng pointed his finger at the clone, and the refined Kunpeng blood flowed into the clone's forehead. A thin golden line immediately connected the iron tree clone and the ancient Kunpeng. The metal tree clone suddenly flew up and transformed into a stream of light, flying in the direction of the ancient Kuan Pung. The Kuan Pung didn't refuse anything. It opened its mouth and swallowed the stream of light. Dao Master Blue Thunder, Immortal Riding Cloud, and the others saw this scene and were stunned. What is it doing? They all recognized that it was a clone of Lin Feng, with the strength of the Yuanying stage. It had a deep foundation and powerful combat power, but in the end, it was only at the Yuanying stage. If it thought that it could turn the world upside down after entering the stomach of the Kuan Pung, it would be a dream. It was fine if the other party was weaker, but for a great demon beast in the third realm of the immortal monster soul, it was completely useless. Even Dao Master IC, who was at the primordial soul realm, was swallowed and could not resist, let alone Lin Feng's Yuanying stage doppelganger. Not only that, the Kuan Pung blood essence contained in the Iron Tree clone became a great supplement for the ancient Kuan Pung, further accelerating its recovery. With a flap of its wings, it was like a giant sword that could split the sky and earth, directly cutting the white cloud of the primordial soul embodiment of Immortal Riding Cloud, causing his primordial soul to be injured. If it weren't for his magical powers, he would have followed in the footsteps of Prince Wuxia and been killed by the Kuan Pung on the spot. The faces of the several primordial soul realm experts were gloomy. Lin Feng's actions were close to colluding with the enemy. Lin Feng's expression did not change. He knew exactly what he was doing. The development of the matter was going according to his plan. The Iron Tree clone was swallowed by the Kuan Pung. For the Iron Tree clone of the Yuanying stage, as soon as it entered the belly of the Kuan Pung, it was almost crushed by the majestic demonic power. However, the defensive power of the original form of the Shura Iron Tree manifested at this moment. At the same time, the Kuan Pung blood essence in its body also played a role, preventing Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone from being destroyed immediately. Although a large amount of the Kuan Pung blood essence was lost and used to nourish the Kuan Pung, Lin Feng managed to establish some sort of connection with the Kuan Pung because of this. As the light and shadow before his eyes changed, Lin Feng followed the original path that He Yu and Mou had taken. Under the guidance of the Kuan Pung blood essence, he flew all the way to the hall where the golden pool was. During this process, Lin Feng did not think or think. He did not dare to act rashly in the slightest. All his energy was used to do one thing. He guarded his spirit and did not move, lest the Iron Tree clone be refined and seized by the Kuan Pung. He could not use the barrier of the heavens. Although that would prevent the refinement of the Kuan Pung, it would also break the connection between the Kuan Pung and the Kuan Pung, making it impossible for him to continue forward. Lin Feng formed a hand seal with both hands, forming a strange seal, and put it in front of his abdomen. 4 symbols heaven opening scripture, earth heaven bearing seal. A wave of power spread out from the body of Lin Feng's Shura Iron Tree clone. It was not sharp or fierce, but it was incomparably thick, vigorous, firm, and indestructible. It was like the earth that carried the heavens and nurtured everything. Any power that fell on the earth could be withstood. Vast, grand, unshakable, indestructible, withstood thousands of disasters and supported the world to exist. As long as I am not destroyed, the world will not be destroyed. The Iron Tree clone in the Yuanying stage was not in the eyes of the Kuan Pung. It did not specially target it. The demonic power in its body automatically reacted and cleared out the external impurities that entered its body. However, when Lin Feng used the power of the heaven-bearing seal, his power was incomparably stable, but also unusually low-key and calm. Facing the demonic power of the Kuan Pung, he did not counterattack, did not resist, and only silently endured without any reaction. Instead, the demonic power of the Kuan Pung gradually disappeared. Of course, the heaven-bearing seal was not a simple technique to endure humiliation. However, at this moment, Lin Feng only needed the defensive power of this technique, and he pushed it to the extreme. While using a technique like the heaven-bearing seal, Lin Feng naturally could not fly or move. He moved forward with the power of the blood tree. Silently, he looked at the scene in front of him change. The doors and the caves were gradually changing, becoming ferocious and alive. His flesh, meridians, bones, and organs were all gradually recovering. When everything was completely restored to its original state, the ancient Kuan Pung would be completely resurrected, and the son of the current Kuan Pung great saint, the current young clan leader of the Kuan-Pung race, Black Feather Kuan-Pung, would completely disappear from this world. It was not a reincarnation, but a sacrifice, using his own life as a guide to activate the fate-defying heavenly stone and awaken his ancestor. Experts of this level are able to observe every single change in their bodies. Nothing can escape their senses. Under normal circumstances, even if I reached the primordial soul realm, I would still be discovered if I used the heaven-bearing seal in his body. Lin Feng thought. It is only because this old Kuan-Pung has not completely resurrected. Although he can use his power, he does not have enough control over his body. That is why I can muddle through. It was only when Lin Feng followed the power of the blood to the central hall where the golden pool was that the Kuan-Pung was alerted. But it was too late. After entering the central hall, Lin Feng's eyes swept around and immediately saw the scene in the golden pool. There, the bright Kuan-Pung image was becoming fainter and fainter. Once this image completely dissipated, turning into light spots and merging with the Kuan-Peng's body, this great demon that had dominated the world 10,000 years ago would truly be resurrected. When Lin Feng entered the central hall, the Kuan-Pung immediately sensed it. The golden light in the hall almost instantly solidified, and the violent power wanted to kill Lin Feng. But now that he had safely arrived at his destination, Lin Feng completely relaxed. He laughed and opened the huge black umbrella. No matter how violent the golden light was, it could not break through the defense of the heaven-covering umbrella. The umbrella covered the sky, and under it was the pure land. All spells could not be destroyed, and all tribulations could not be destroyed. Lin Feng held the heaven-covering umbrella and strolled leisurely, as if he had come out for a walk. The golden light outside fell on the heaven-covering umbrella, and it was like the warm sunlight in spring. It had lost its previous fierceness. This is the fate-defying heaven stone? Lin Feng looked at the square-shaped spirit stone floating in the air. The fate-defying heaven stone, which had sunk into the golden pool, also floated out of the water and into the air during the ceremony. The energy fluctuations of the spirit stone itself were not very strong, but they were full of a different kind of mysterious feeling, and contained a unique divine power. Lin Feng took a deep breath. It's really not easy to determine what level of power this thing has. I hope it works. He took out a golden pearl the size of a fist. It was the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl. Lin Feng threw the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl at the fate-defying heaven stone. Open! With a thought from Lin Feng, under his control, the golden mist inside the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl kept tumbling and flowing out of the pearl. The Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl was quickly covered by the golden mist, and the golden mist also enveloped the fate-defying heaven stone. The Kuan-Pung sensed that something was wrong. He could not do anything to Lin Feng, who was protected by the heaven-covering umbrella, so he decided to destroy the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl. Under the pressure of the demonic power, the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl shook in the golden mist, as if it would shatter at any moment. Lin Feng was about to make a move, when he suddenly saw a faint light flash in the golden mist. An aura more terrifying than the ancient Kuan-Peng spread out. Although it was only an aura, it made the half-conscious Kuan-Peng shudder, and its power slowed down slightly. Just like that, the terrifying aura disappeared in a flash, and the Heaven Scarlet Golden Pearl also changed shape under the golden mist. The golden mist dissipated, revealing a square spirit stone that looked exactly like the fate-defying heaven stone next to it. Putting everything else aside, Lin Feng immediately threw the fate-defying heaven stone into the golden pool next to him. At the same time, he activated the remaining Kuan-Pung blood in the Iron Tree clone. Putting away the heaven-covering umbrella, the Iron Tree clone jumped directly into the golden pool. The fate-reversing soul return ceremony was still in progress, and Lin Feng did not want to stop it. In his opinion, this was a golden opportunity. The black-feathered Kuan-Pung had already started the ceremony, so Lin Feng did not need to continue. He only needed to use the Kuan-Pung blood essence to participate. Soon Lin Feng's fate-defying heaven stone also leaped out of the white mist and connected the Iron Tree clone with the Kuan-Pung light above the pool. It extracted Kuan-Pung blood essence from the Iron Tree clone and fused it with the light. But other than the Kuan-Pung blood essence, something else was mixed in. The Kuan-Pung light began to shake violently. The Kuan Peng's angry cry came from the central hall. When Lin Feng heard this, a bright smile appeared on his face. I'll add more fuel to the fire. Chapter 430. In order to prevent his iron tree clone from being completely assimilated and absorbed by the ritual, Lin Feng formed the heaven-bearing seal to stabilize his divine soul. But before that, he first separated a part of his body's essence blood. Using the Kuan Peng's essence blood as a guide, Lin Feng also channeled the essence blood of his iron tree clone into the heavenly scarlet golden bead's fate-defying heaven stone. This time the ancient Kuan Peng was in big trouble. The fate-reversing soul revival ritual was a one-way spell. It used the purest power of the demon race's descendants to sacrifice their own soul and essence blood to resurrect their ancestors of the same race that had died. Even if their divine soul and true spirit had been completely obliterated, as long as the body was still there, it was possible to resurrect with the help of the fate-defying heaven stone. This was truly a heaven-defying act. The spell of the secret technique ritual itself was very powerful. Once the ritual was activated, it was very difficult for others to interrupt it through external forces. Even if a primordial soul realm expert were to attack the pool and the Kuan Peng silhouette in the central golden palace, they would be blocked by the restriction of the secret technique ritual itself. Unfortunately, the strongest fortress was always the first to be breached from the inside. With the Kuan Peng's essence blood and the replicated fate-defying heaven stone, Lin Feng had successfully deceived the protection of the ritual's restriction and snuck in. The heavenly scarlet golden bead's effect was vividly demonstrated here. It had replicated the fate-defying heaven stone, and even its function, without a trace of falsehood. At this moment, the heavenly scarlet golden bead was completely the second fate-defying heaven stone. The fate-reversing soul revival ritual was heaven-defying, but its operation process was extremely precise. The slightest mistake in the process would cause great trouble. Being stirred by Lin Feng's essence blood was equivalent to adding impurities to the reincarnation process of a pure Kuan Peng's essence blood and soul. Almost instantly, the Kuan Peng silhouette trembled violently. The light spots that had been continuously separating from the silhouette and merging into the surrounding walls of the palace were directly reversed and returned to the Kuan Peng silhouette. Not only that, but light spots rushed out of the walls one after another, constantly flying towards the Kuan Peng silhouette above the golden pool. There were bursts of angry roars in the air. It was two overlapping voices, one belonging to the ancient Kuan Peng, and the other belonging to the black-feathered Kuan Peng. In the beginning, the ancient Kuan Peng's voice was like a tsunami, shaking people's minds. The black-feathered Kuan Peng's voice was almost inaudible. But in the end, the ancient Kuan Peng's voice became softer and softer, while the black-feathered Kuan Peng's voice became louder and louder. Both of them let out unwilling and resentful cries, their boundless anger almost condensing into substance, turning into the most vicious curse, attacking Lin Feng. With Lin Feng's interference, the entire ceremony was reversed. What? I was wondering if I could take control of this Kuan Peng's body. Lin Feng was also a little surprised. After all, he had never come into contact with or cultivated the fate-reversing soul revival ritual. Everything was based on speculation. Faced with the reversal of the ritual, Lin Feng's hands changed hand seals, and one seal after another shot out, landing in the air, constantly rearranging themselves. Let's settle for the next best thing. There shouldn't be any problems this time. These seals kept fusing into the walls of the central hall. The Kuan Peng was furious and wanted to stop it, but at this moment, he was powerless. Originally, the ancient Kuan Peng would not be truly resurrected until the ritual was completely over. Now that the ritual was suddenly reversed, it directly ruined the chance of the ancient Kuan Peng's resurrection. His spiritual sense was constantly annihilated, and he even lost control of his body. Outside his body, Dao Master Lan Lei and the others looked at the huge Kuan Peng in surprise. At this moment, all the Essence Soul Big Shots were injured. Cloud Riding Immortal and Dao Master Lan Lei had already lost their combat power, and their Essence Soul incarnations were seriously damaged. They were hiding in the Yin and Yang life and death formation, struggling at death's door. Only Chao Wei and Dao Master Changlu were struggling. Chao Wei was also seriously injured, and one of Dao Master Chong Li's arms and one of his legs were bitten off by the Kuan Peng. Seeing that the Kuan Peng was about to launch a fatal blow, he suddenly stopped for a moment. After a moment of stillness, the Kuan Peng's body shone with a golden light and began to scream in pain. Its body kept twisting, sometimes turning into the shape of a Kuan, and sometimes into a Peng. It rampaged everywhere, as if it was enduring great pain. Dao Master Chong Lu almost died. He stared at the scene in front of him blankly. This is... As the white light of the formation flashed, Lin Feng's body stepped out of the void and said lightly, "It's over." The group of Essence Soul Realm big shots was stunned. Dao Master Blue Thunder exclaimed, "Sect Master Lin, are you talking about your avatar?" Lin Feng smiled and said nothing. The others all gasped and looked at the Kuan Peng in the yin and yang life and death formation. The Kuan Peng's body was constantly changing, sometimes big and sometimes small. The golden light constantly twisted and flashed, stirring up the world in the yin and yang life and death formation. Soon the appearance of the Kuan Peng's body began to twist and change. It gradually lost the appearance of the Kuan Peng and began to become more and more like a black egg. The Kuan Peng's secret treasure was an independent spirit space. From the outside, the Kuan Peng at this moment was gradually changing back to the appearance of the Kuan Peng secret treasure. But this time it was not a stable spirit dimension. After such a disturbance, the black egg began to disintegrate. Every time it disintegrated, the surrounding void would collapse together with it, turning it into a mass of chaos. A ring appeared in the middle of the black egg. The whole body wriggled and twisted, and finally split into two halves. The black half of the egg let out an angry roar, and its shape gradually changed, turning back into a smaller Kuan Peng. Although it was abnormally ferocious, it was much weaker than when the ancient Kuan Peng had swept through the world. The other half of the black egg was also constantly changing. Finally, it turned into a huge square black stone, like a foundation. The Kuan Peng roared angrily and turned into the shape of a Kuan. It was incomparably huge, and with the power of a star, it heavily collided with the square black stone of the same origin. The square black stone was not afraid and brazenly collided with the giant Kuan. Boom, 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 boom. In the void, neither side retreated. They collided hundreds of times. In the roar, countless rocks were shattered, and the giant Kuan's head was bleeding. The Kuan Peng was extremely violent. Its Kuan shape turned back into a Peng shape, and its wings spread out to cover the sky. It used the speed of the Kuan Peng, and golden light shone brightly. Its body seemed to have turned into countless golden streamers, covering the entire void. His shadow was everywhere. These shadows completely wrapped around the square black stone, and then thousands of iron claws grabbed at the square black stone at the same time. Dao Master Chong Lu and the others held their breath at the same time. At this moment, the overall power of the Kuan Peng was much weaker than before, but its control of its own power was more flexible than before. When fighting with them, the Kuan Peng only relied on brute force, but now, it had already displayed many secret skills and magical powers inherited from the Kuan Peng clan. Lin Feng did not panic. Instead, a smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. "I want to thank you for helping me polish the treasure." In the previous collision, many parts of the square black stone were broken, but as if it had been polished, the black stone gradually became flat, but its power was purer. Like the Kuan Peng, the black stone suddenly shone with golden light, and 4 huge pillars stood up above the black stone. These pillars contain the power of the Kuan Peng, but also a special kind of power. Immovable and eternal, this was the power of the Sarah iron tree. The 4 pillars were erected, and then countless blue lights with the black stone as the foundation and the pillars as the core, erected a majestic palace on the black stone. The palace was incomparably magnificent, as if it came from an ancient divine kingdom. It was unbelievably huge, and only a towering giant could live in it. In the golden light, countless runes and talismans kept appearing, like the rolling waves in the sea of light. The majestic power spread out, making people's hearts palpitate. The green palace, which was flashing with golden light, began to shake violently in the void. The blue palace still stayed in the same position in the air, but in an instant, it shook thousands of times. The degree of each shake was very small, but abnormally clear. Every time the palace shook, it would collide with one of the Kunpeng's claws. Thousands of vibrations, in this instant, collided with the many shadows of the Kunpeng and the thousands of iron claws. The two sides were evenly matched, and sparks flew in all directions. But the more they fought, the more depressed the Kunpeng felt. This power should have belonged to him. The Kunpeng changed back from the Peng form to the Kun form. Like a swimming fish, it moved through the world, and its huge body seemed to have a nimble feeling. In an instant, it glided to the side of the palace, and with a swing of its tail, the void shattered wherever it passed. The Kunpeng's tail whipped the roof of the blue palace, and for a moment, debris flew everywhere. Countless blue lights scattered in all directions, turning into isolated tornadoes. The Kunpeng's tail was also dripping with blood and flesh, and huge scales flew off. The Kunpeng became even more violent, and wanted to continue fighting. Suddenly its body paused. "HM? You also dare to cause trouble?" The Kunpeng's expression was extremely fierce. It suddenly opened its mouth, and countless ice water sprayed out. It was the primordial spirit of the Ice Sea Dao Master that it had swallowed. At this moment, it also took the opportunity to counterattack. The Kunpeng roared angrily, and the demonic power in its body surged, forming a small world in its body. After locking the Ice Sea Dao Master inside, a storm and tsunami came, and the violent demonic power beat the already seriously injured Ice Sea Dao Master to the verge of death. But at this moment, the blue palace suddenly shook, and thousands of astral winds suddenly sprayed out from the mountain, slashing towards the Kunpeng. The Kunpeng was attacked from both sides, and in desperation, it could only dodge. But the blue palace was not polite. The astral winds that lost their target did not dissipate, but returned again. At this time, the color of the blue palace suddenly changed, becoming as dark as the foundation below. Under the support of the astral winds, the completely black palace rushed directly in front of the Kunpeng, and took the initiative to crash into it. Boom! In the loud noise, the astral winds exploded, turning into shock waves that spread in all directions. The power of the shock from both sides dissipated far away, and even the 10,000-year Xian ice in the space was shaken. "Ice Sea Dao Master, please seize this opportunity," Lin Feng said silently. Before his voice died away, the huge palace once again rushed towards the Kunpeng. The Ice Sea Dao Master was sealed in the Kunpeng's body, and also roused his own magical power to attack. Under the internal and external attacks, the Kunpeng was hit by the Black Palace until he was dizzy. He groaned, opened his mouth, and suddenly spat out all the glaciers and seawater. The ice sea turned into a human figure, and the Ice Sea Dao Master looked dispirited and embarrassed. At this time, the Kunpeng, who had no worries, roared and once again fought with the Black Palace in the sky. Chapter 431. Without Dao Master Ice Sea's interference, Kunpeng showed its power again and fought with the Blue-Black Palace. However, Lin Feng's power was not limited to this Blue-Black Palace. Kunpeng transformed into a Kuan and violently knocked back the palace, but he did not feel proud at all. Instead, he felt a chill in his heart, and felt that a great danger was about to come. In the sky outside the 1,000-year black ice glacier, the air was like boiling water, and there was a huge shadow flashing. The next moment, the huge shadow suddenly became smaller, passed through the cave created by the true fire on the glacier, and came to the inside of the glacier. All the feathers on Kunpeng's body stood up at this moment, and he looked at Lin Feng and the others with hatred. He looked at the Blue-Black Palace with even more resentment and unwillingness. "Human, my Kunpeng clan will take revenge for this." He suddenly spoke, but his voice was not the voice of the ancient Kunpeng, but the voice of the young master of the Kunpeng clan, Black Feather Kunpeng. Disturbed by Lin Feng, the effect of the soul reversal ritual was reversed, and the Kunpeng clan failed. The remains of the ancient Kunpeng were divided into two. One half was refined by Lin Feng into the Blue-Black Palace, and the other half was used by Heiyu to reincarnate. Since it was destined that he could not resurrect his ancestor, Heiyu decisively stopped the ritual, and did not rebuild his body. Instead, He used his divine soul to refine half of the ancient Kuanping's remains. The two bloodlines merged, and half of the ancient Kuanping's remains became the new body of Black Feather Kuanping. This body was still too powerful for Heiyu, who was previously a late-stage monster king. If he had not merged with the ancient Kuanping's soul shell, he would not have been able to control it at all. It would have been like a child swinging a hammer. Heiyu had to achieve an immortal monster soul himself to be able to truly merge his soul and completely control his power. This was undoubtedly a great opportunity for Heiyu. However, the soul reversal ritual was interrupted, and the resurrection of the ancient Kuanping failed. For the entire Kuanping clan, it was simply a disaster. At this moment, Heiyu's hatred for Lin Feng was simply indescribable. Lin Feng looked at him calmly and said lightly, "Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish." Shi Tianhao and the others were all in the blue-black palace. Lin Feng no longer had any scruples. The void began to shake violently, and a terrifying power began to surge. The black-feathered rock had a look of fear on its face, and it let out an unwilling roar. Amidst the roar, he shook his body and transformed into the form of a rock. Flapping his wings, he displayed the extreme speed of a rock and quickly passed through another cave tunnel on the 10,000-year-old dark ice, landing on the path of clouds formed by the great sage Kuanping's blood essence. The red cloud path caught Heiyu, and the two of them merged into one before retreating rapidly, passing through the void turbulence and returning to Infinite Mainland. For a split second, Lin Feng wanted to block the passageway to Infinite Mainland and make the Black Feather Kuanping stay there forever. But after thinking about it, he finally gave up on this tempting idea. As far as he knew, the Kuanping demon race was the same as the Golden Crow demon race. They were both opposing forces of the Enchantress. The Golden Crow Great Sage was suppressed in the Divine Land, and his true spirit was brought back to Infinite Mainland as the Enchantress's spoils of war. Under the combination of kindness and power, the Golden Crow demon race was very likely to submit to the Enchantress, and the demon's power in Infinite Mainland would further expand. There was a need to leave more thorns and stumbling blocks for her. For the Kuanping demon race, their primary opponent was also the Enchantress. After coming to the Divine Land, they didn't have the time to find trouble with Lin Feng. Just now, they could be considered to have formed a death feud with the Northern Militant Royal Court. The Northern Militant Royal Court had died in the hands of the ancient Kuanping, and an Essence Soul Realm cultivator had fallen. Thinking of this, Lin Feng glanced at Chao Wei. The Northern Militant Royal Court had lost an Essence Soul Realm cultivator, and they had to guard against the Heavenly Pool sect taking advantage of the opportunity. The battle finally calmed down. Lin Feng relaxed his dermic powers, and the huge palace turned green again, sitting on the black foundation. The people who had entered the Kuanping secret treasure filed out of the palace, feeling like it was a lifetime ago. The Essence Soul Realm big shots looked over, and their hearts sank. When the ancient Kuanping was acting violently, those who entered the secret treasure were equivalent to being in its stomach. Under the attack of the demon power, many people suffered misfortune and met with many dangers. Even Xianmen Tianzong and the others were injured and looked dispirited. Fortunately, there were no casualties. When the ancient Kuanping was resurrected, they were outside the central Golden Palace, which was near the soul aperture of the Kuanping, so it was relatively safe. Although they had also encountered danger, they had at least avoided the disaster. However, some people weren't so lucky. Not only the Golden Elixir period and Foundation establishment stage cultivators, even some Yuanying ancestors were buried in the belly of the Kuanping. The people of the Northern Militant Royal Court had just escaped, but they immediately encountered an even bigger thunderbolt. Their Essence Soul Realm big shot, the left virtuous prince, had actually died in battle. Lin Feng returned the left virtuous prince's body to them and slowly said, "The left virtuous prince fought against the great demon and died for a noble cause. He was a strong and brave man worthy of respect. If you are willing, I can help you escort the left virtuous prince's body back to the Northern Militant." The group of Northern Militant cultivators looked at the calm expression of the Heavenly Pool sect's sect master Chao Wei in the distance and shivered. They bowed to Lin Feng together and said in unison, "Xian sect's sect master is righteous. This junior can't thank you enough." The northern militant will remember Senior's help. Chao Wei's eyes flashed slightly, but he didn't say anything. Dao Master Chong Lu and Cloud Riding Immortal both had complex expressions on their faces. This was a good opportunity for the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Qin dynasty to win over the northern militant royal court, but they wouldn't sit back and watch the other party get this opportunity. The basically neutral Xianmen Tianzong took over, and both sides could reluctantly accept it. As the person who turned the tide, Lin Feng also had the right to make the distribution. Of course, the more important reason was that all of them were seriously injured, and only Lin Feng maintained his full combat power. Thinking of this, whether it was Dao Master Chong Lu, Cloud Riding Immortal, Chao Wei, Blue Thunder Dao Master, or IC Dao Master, they were all in a trance. Not long ago, the ancient Kunpeng was resurrected. It hadn't returned to its peak state, but it had already swept through the entire battlefield. No one had the power to fight back. The northern militant royal prince died in battle, and IC Dao Master was swallowed alive. It was truly majestic and fierce. But then Lin Feng's avatar entered the body of the Kunpeng, and it actually directly disintegrated the ancient Kunpeng. After the disintegration of the ancient Kunpeng, it was divided into two, and one of them was even refined by Lin Feng. When this scene fell into the eyes of Cloud Riding Immortal and the others, it caused them to have a peerlessly absurd feeling, causing them to feel unwell. Dao Master Chong Lu turned his neck with difficulty, looked at Lin Feng and said bitterly, "Sect Master Lin, this was all done by your avatar?" Lin Feng's Iron Tree avatar was only at the Yuanying stage. It was really unbelievable that he could complete such a feat. The ancient Kunpeng that had beaten them up was killed by Lin Feng just like that? What kind of joke was this? This was simply making the few primordial soul stage cultivators look like pigs. Or was it that the master of the celestial sect's magical power was so strong that all the things in the past were just the tip of the iceberg? I used some special methods. Lin Feng did not explain much. It was better for him to maintain a sense of mystery. The only person who could use this method to deal with the ancient Kunpeng was Lin Feng with the heavenly scarlet golden bead. In the blue-black palace, the Iron Tree avatar held the heavenly scarlet golden bead, which had returned to its original form. At this moment, there was only white smoke left in the bead. The golden light had faded, and it had entered a new cycle of cultivation. Lin Feng thought, "This bead, I am afraid it is not simple." The fate-defying heavenly stone was a one-time consumable. Whether the ceremony was successful or not, as long as the ceremony ended, the fate-defying heavenly stone would crack and break into pieces. This was the fate of the Kunpeng's fate-defying heavenly stone. However, the fate-defying heavenly stone replicated by the heavenly scarlet golden bead did not break after being used, but only returned to the appearance of a bead. Recalling the terrifying light and shadow that suddenly surged in the golden mist when the Kunpeng wanted to destroy the bead, Lin Feng muttered to himself, "Maybe the legend is true." At this time, Dao Master IC came forward and looked at Lin Feng silently. After a long time he said, "This time, I am indebted to the master of the celestial sect for saving me." Lin Feng smiled slightly. "You are too polite, Dao Master IC." Dao Master IC nodded and did not say anything more. However, he and Lin Feng both knew that Dao Master IC meant that he owed Lin Feng a big favor. In the future, if something happened to Lin Feng, he would have to return this favor. It was not easy to return a favor, and Lin Feng would never waste it. However, a simple favor would make the relationship between the two parties awkward. Based on the favor and the interest, the two parties could have a longer relationship. It was the same for Purple Cloud Dao and Dao Master IC. Therefore, Lin Feng also gave a part of the treasures from the Kunpeng's secret treasure to Dao Master IC. Then, it was up to Dao Master IC to decide how to distribute the treasures to his disciples and other cultivators of the Arctic IC. Lin Feng would not overstep his authority to do this kind of favor. This time, Lin Feng obtained more than half of the Kunpeng's secret treasure, and even half of the ancient Kunpeng's remains. He destroyed the resurrection of the ancient Kunpeng, and repelled the black-feathered Kunpeng. Logically speaking, he should be the final winner, and the others had no spare energy to compete with him. However, during this trip to the Kunpeng's secret treasure, Lin Feng had made up his mind to unite and win over allies, so naturally he would not be too ugly. Of course, he still had to take the majority of the benefits, but there were also some things that were shared by Lin Feng to other forces. Even the Heavenly Pool sect was not left empty-handed. In any case, in the battle with the ancient Kuan Peng, Cao Wei did not hide anything and fought with all his strength, but he was injured by the Kuan Peng. Since he made a contribution in such a battle, Lin Feng gave him a share of the spoils. His magnanimity was impeccable. Everyone, this change is really beyond everyone's expectations. Slowly Lin Feng said, although the resurrection of the ancient Kuan Peng was destroyed by me, the Kuan Peng clan still gained a lot, and the growth of their power is inevitable. This may have an unknown impact on the demon clan's Tianhuang land and the human clan's divine land. We still need to plan early. Lin Feng took the Blue-Black Palace and carried Xianmen Tianzong and the people of the northern militant royal court to Yujing Mountain. The void shook, and the purple cloud sea and the white jade immortal mountain disappeared into the void. Watching the huge Yujing Mountain gradually disappear, Dao Master Chang'e and the others looked at each other with complicated expressions on their faces, and let out a long sigh. On Yujing Mountain, Shi Tianhao, Tuntin, Zhuge Fengling and the others cheered one after another. So many good things, we are completely rich. Chapter 432. Lin Feng smiled when he heard the cheers of the little fellows. Just as they had said, the trip to the Arctic ice sea had been fruitful and Xianmen Tianzong had made a fortune. Shi Tianhao and the others were the first to enter the core of the secret treasure. Before the black-winged Kuan Peng entered and resurrected the ancient Kuan Peng, Xianmen Tianzong and the others had already searched the Kuan Peng's secret treasure and obtained a lot of good things. The ancient Kuan Peng was a super great demon that roamed the divine land and infinite wasteland. It had collected a lot of good things, which were buried under the glacier with its death and stored in the Kuan Peng's secret treasure. Although some of the treasures were brought back to infinite wasteland by the black-winged Kuan Peng, most of the treasures fell into the hands of Lin Feng and the others. Shi Tianhao was holding a long sword in his hand. It was not a sword made of metal, but a long sword carved out of stone. The style of the stone longsword's hilt and chin were relatively simple, and the edges of the blade were round, making it look more like a slender stone strip. Only the tip of the sword flickered with a cold light. The cold light was incomparably dazzling, and exuded an indestructible sharpness that could pierce through everything. It was as if all the sharpness of the entire sword was concentrated on the tip of the sword, causing the sword's lethality to skyrocket. Shi Tianhao held the stone-long sword in his hand. The tip of the sword lightly sliced his arm, and it actually cut through his skin. This scene caused a commotion in the crowd. Miao Shihao, Kong Nanhua, and Zhu Yi all revealed looks of shock, while Tuntin and Zhuge Fengling cried out, "Is this for real?" They could not be blamed for being shocked. Shi Tianhao's physical body was too strong. Only a sharp weapon of the Yuanying stage could injure him. The golden elixir period weapon Shi Tianhao could withstand it with his physical body without blinking. And this long sword cut through Shi Tianhao's well-tempered body too easily. All of them saw that Shi Tianhao's hand didn't even use any force when holding the sword. The tip of the sword lightly cut through, and blood immediately appeared. Shi Tianhao's eyes lit up. "I've picked up a treasure." This was originally a Dharma treasure, but its owner died in the hands of the Kuan Peng. The Dharma treasure itself was damaged and its spirit was destroyed. Although it doesn't have the power of a Dharma treasure now, it has a strong foundation. It might be able to rise again in the future. Even now, it is still a rare treasure, better than most Yuanying Dharma treasures. Lin Feng sighed in his heart. Come to think of it, this little guy has quite a lot of good things on hand. He turned to look at Zhu Yi. "Xiaoyi, you have to work hard. Otherwise, your full value blessing will not live up to its name." While he was thinking, Lin Feng's eyes stared blankly. Damn. Looks like I'm still too young." He saw Zhu Yi holding a piece of rag in his hand and examining it. Seeing Lin Feng looking at him, he immediately said, "Master, this is what I found in the secret treasure. It looks like it's a broken piece of a monk's kasaya." "I know." Lin Feng nodded speechlessly. He could feel the Buddha nature contained in the rag the moment he saw it. It was said to be in the Kuanpang's secret treasure. But in fact, it was in the Kuanpang's stomach. There were no Buddhists in the Kuanpang's secret treasure this time, which meant that the Kasaya had been in the Kuanpang's stomach for tens of thousands of years. The problem was, although the Kuanpang was dead, its demonic power had not dissipated. How could such a piece of Kasaya not be damaged after tens of thousands of years under the effect of the Kuanpang's demonic power? A group of people gathered around Zhu Yi, curiously sizing up the broken Kasaya, sensing the concept of power contained within it. Gradually, everyone's expression changed. They could feel an extremely domineering Buddha Dharma true meaning from it. It was a powerful power that dominated the universe and controlled the fate, karma, and fate of all living things. How could one transcend the sea of bitterness in the world? Great power, great magical power, supreme wisdom, and supreme power could tear apart the sea of bitterness and reach the other side. Vairocana Sutra. Lin Feng said slowly. This is the true meaning of power of the Vairocana Sutra. The others, including Jieyu, Tunten, Kuei Nyo King and the other demons gasped. The sacred Buddhist Great Thunderclap Monastery's supreme manual was the Five-Direction Vairocana Sutra. Each of them had supreme power and were top-notch cultivation Dharma arts. However, the Dharma art with the strongest combat power was undoubtedly the Vairocana Sutra. It was above the Immovable Buddha Sutra and the Infinite Light Buddha Sutra. However, the Vairocana Sutra had been lost for many years, and the Great Thunderclap Monastery only had the Vairocana Sutra array diagram left. As a result, when people mentioned the Five-Direction Vairocana Sutra, they would think that the Immovable Buddha Sutra was the strongest. From the perspective of Dharma arts, that was true. However, in terms of magical power and combat Dharma arts, the lost Vairocana Sutra was superior. Lin Feng said, the complete destruction of the Vairocana Sutra started 4,600 years ago. It was a war between the human race and the demon race. That war was earth-shattering and the flames of war spread across the Divine Land and Infinite Wilderness Land. The final battle was at the Great Thunderclap Monastery. In the end, the Sutra depository of the Great Thunderclap Monastery was destroyed and countless eminent monks died in battle. Although the demon race was defeated in the end, the 10,000-year-old monastery also suffered a great calamity. After the war, it was rebuilt. The monks in the monastery copied the sutra and dharma based on what they had learned, and rebuilt the sutra depository. However, it was a pity that all the eminent monks who knew the Vairocana Sutra died in that war. As a result, the Vairocana Sutra was completely lost. Miao Shihao stretched out 2 fingers and wanted to pick up the Kasaya, but he shrank it back just as he was about to fall. Forget it, it's too dirty. He rolled his eyes at Lin Feng charmingly. Brother Shihao, I've heard about this too. However, I didn't expect that a Buddhist cultivator who cultivated the Vairocana Sutra would die in the belly of a Kuanpang 10,000 years ago. However, the sutra was preserved. It's all fate. Lin Feng carefully studied the sutra and shook his head. It's a pity that the eminent monk didn't manage to cultivate the most crucial 10 moves of the Vairocana Sutra. That's the core principle of the Vairocana Sutra, and also the strongest magical power. Kong Nanhua raised her eyebrows slightly. Vairocana Sutra? That's also publicly recognized as the strongest martial magical power in the Divine Land. Lin Feng nodded. That's right. Even I would like to take a look at it. Even if he obtained one of the 10 fist seals, he could use the library to deduce the other 9. However, he didn't have any of them, so he couldn't do it. The incomplete Vairocana Sutra on the Kasaya could make up for the rest, but it would still be missing the core principle. However, this situation was already very good, especially since Shi Tianhao and the others had successfully obtained part of the immovable Vairocana Sutra from Liang Yuan. They didn't make things difficult for Liang Yuan. However, when Liang Yuan's clone was in danger in the Kuanpang's treasury, they extorted him and got the sutra out of him before helping him escape. Liang Yuan wasn't easy to deal with either. Not only did he provide incomplete sutra, he even purposely made a few mistakes in the key parts. However, he didn't expect that Xianmen Tianzong's library had the ability to make up for Taoist techniques. In the end, it still benefited Shi Tianhao and the others. Little E, as your master, I want to apologize to you. Your full points of fortune are indeed not for show. Lin Feng smiled bitterly in his heart. He saw that other than the Kasaya, Zhu Yi also had other great gains. Zhu Yi alone had almost surpassed the sum of the others. Of course, this didn't include Lin Feng. In this trip to the Arctic Ice Sea, Xianmen Tianzong's most valuable gain was naturally the half of the Kuanping's remains that Lin Feng had refined into the Blue-Black Palace. As for the other treasures, Lin Feng was also prepared to invest a considerable amount in this Blue-Black Palace to further refine it. Lin Feng himself knew that the Blue-Black Palace before him had actually only completed the first step of refining. His control over it was still very shallow. The black-feathered Kuanping had the same reason. If the black-feathered Kuanping also achieved the undying demon soul realm, then he would be able to completely control his current physical body. His combat power would undergo earth-shaking changes. Although he still wouldn't be comparable to the ancient Kuanping, he would be above his father, the great sage Kuanping. Lin Feng sized up the Blue-Black Palace and thought to himself, the remains of a great demon at the undying demon soul realm is really the best material to refine a transcendent treasure. It's better than most of the transcendent treasure embryos. Moreover, after refining it into a transcendent treasure, its power will be stronger. Although I only have half of the remains here, after I achieve the primordial spirit realm, I can also use it to refine a transcendent treasure. Now I can make preparations, polish and nurture it. When the time comes, I won't waste such good materials. Lin Feng was thinking about how to deal with the Blue-Black Palace. However, for him now, the most effective way to improve his strength was to go to the medium world where Qiongqi was hiding and try to get the skeleton of the solitary dark from the great sage Qiongqi. During the battle in the Arctic Ice Sea, when the fate-reversing soul-returning ritual was interrupted and the body of the ancient Kuanping was split, Lin Feng decisively withdrew the yin and yang life and death formation, and no longer used it to wrap the Kuanping. Unlike Lin Feng, Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, who used their own Dharma power to simulate the formation, the terrible power fluctuation at that time was the real power of the world going to die. At this moment, the yin and yang life and death formation was not complete. If it withstood such power, it was very likely to damage the formation map. As the formation treasure of the yin and yang life and death formation became more complete, its power would also become stronger. However, let's finish the matter in front of us first. Lin Feng was speechless as he looked at the small world that Zhu Yi weaved with Dharma power. He looked at the figure that was still sleeping in it. Since when did you not only pick up things, but also like to pick up people? It was a teenager who looked to be only 16 or 17 years old. At this moment, he was in a deep sleep. Lin Feng scanned him with Dharma power, and knew that he had been injured and his primordial qi was damaged. Zhu Yi was using this method to help him recover. Wait a minute. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. He took out the talent detector and tested it. He could not help but be stunned on the spot. Innate Bone 7, Comprehension 9, Will 9, Luck 6. Conclusion. The target is extremely talented. It is recommended to take him in as a disciple and teach him carefully. He will definitely become a pillar of the sect. Listening to the sound of the system notification, Lin Feng was a little confused. The total value is 31. I just picked up a person with a total value of more than 30? Chapter 433. Listening to the system notification, Lin Feng was sure that the person in front of him was a genius with a total talent potential of more than 30. At this moment, he almost wanted to hug and kiss Zhu Yi. This disciple was really considerate. Of course, although he was a little excited in his heart, Lin Feng was still very calm on the surface. After taking a closer look at the young man, Lin Feng felt a little strange. He looks a little familiar. I remember he has a master. His name seems to be Ancestor He too? He's at the Yuanying stage, and has some fame in the Arctic Ice Sea. The young man who was brought back by Zhu Yi was Ancestor He too's disciple, Li Yuanfang. With Lin Feng's current cultivation, he could also have a photographic memory. Although Li Yuanfang was only at the foundation establishment stage, and was inconspicuous in the crowd, Lin Feng could still remember what he looked like when he followed behind Ancestor, he too outside the Kuanping's secret treasure. The talent detector can't see the specific value of someone who has a master, Lin Feng said in his heart. But right now I can see his numbers. Then there are only two possibilities. 1. He was expelled from the sect or betrayed the sect himself. 2. His master is dead. Lin Feng looked at Zhu Yi and asked in a flat tone, "What's wrong with this person?" Zhu Yi replied, "Master, this young man is a disciple of Ancestor, he too, a cultivator in the Ice Sea. When the Kuanping's secret treasure changed, Ancestor he too died. This young man and his fellow disciples were all in danger. At the critical moment, he sacrificed himself and used himself to activate the Kuanping's demonic power restriction to protect the others, but he almost died. I saw that he had a good character, so I felt sorry for him and saved him," Zhu Yi explained. "I just wanted to save his life, but the changes in the secret treasure became more and more serious, so I had to keep bringing him with me. After that, Master took action to calm the changes. I tried to find his fellow disciples, but I couldn't find them, so I brought him back and asked Master to deal with him." "Tell me what happened in detail," Lin Feng asked. After Zhu Yi described the situation in detail, Lin Feng looked at Li Yuanfang, who was still in a coma, and nodded in his heart. He's only at the foundation establishment stage, but he's calm in the face of danger. He can even find the pattern of the demonic power restriction and guide it. He's a promising young man. Lin Feng's mind spun a couple of times. His expression did not show on his face, quietly saying, "Then leave him on the mountain first. You just need to treat him." Zhu Yi nodded. Disciple obeys. He paused for a moment before continuing. "There's one more thing I need to report to Master. When I was in the Rock's treasury, I was separated from my junior brothers, Mr. Kong and Mr. Miao, for a period of time. When I was exploring on my own, I coincidentally met Shi Xingyun of the Qin dynasty. Of me, Master Feng of Master of Lin Feng." "Master, you must be joking." Zhu Yi also smiled and said, "Even if I wanted to, she didn't give me the chance. The demonic power prohibition in the hidden chamber was powerful, but it couldn't hurt her. However, it forced her to show her true strength and let me witness it by accident." These words immediately piqued the interest of everyone who had participated in the Desolate Sea Assembly, such as Shi Tianhao, Yu Hongyan, Tunten, Zhuge Fengling and others. Tunten asked curiously, "Are you implying that Shi Xingyun hasn't shown his true strength during the Desolate Sea Assembly?" On the shore of the Northwind Sea, Shi Xingyun had defeated the Northern Militant Royal Court's spirit cultivator Sang Luoha, and dragged the popular candidate Tao Yaoyao to death. Apart from Xianmen Tianzong, Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao, Shi Xingyun was the most famous cultivator of the Golden Elixir period. Although she chose to forfeit against Zhu Yi, it did not affect others' evaluation of her. After all, the fierce battle between Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao proved that Zhu Yi was overwhelmingly powerful during the Golden Elixir period. But now, it seemed that Shi Xingyun had not used her full strength, which was rather shocking. Zhu Yi looked at the crowd surrounding him and nodded. "That's right. Because of this, I also witnessed her greatest secret." He looked at Lin Feng and said in a serious tone, "Master, Shi Xingyun did not fuse the ancient heavenly dragon's soul into her spirit. She was a reincarnation of a dragon." "That's interesting." Lin Feng nodded slowly after hearing that. When he saw Shi Xingyun's spirit at the Wilderness Sea Assembly, he felt that it was a little strange. He felt that she seemed to be hiding something. An Essence Soul Realm expert would not be able to see through a person's spirit without using their dermic powers. Therefore, it was not surprising that Shi Xingyun could hide it from Lin Feng, Tao Lord Blue Thunder, and Chao Wei. However, it was impossible for her to hide it from the Essence Soul Realm experts of the Great Qin dynasty who had watched her grow up, especially from the father of her current body, the current emperor of Qin. If the experts of the Great Qin dynasty were that stupid, the Great Qin dynasty would have been flattened by the Great Zhou dynasty long ago. It seemed that the Great Qin dynasty had allowed the demon race to transform into the purest royal bloodline. The hidden message was too complicated. Lin Feng thought to himself, "I wonder where she came from. Is it the dragon pool of the Taishu temple in the Divine Land, Or the hidden dragon race in Tianhuang mainland? He looked at Zhu Yi and said with a smile, "She didn't kill you?" Zhu Yi raised his eyebrows. I felt that she was tempted for a moment, but she quickly gave up. Lin Feng said, "It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it." At this moment, Mount Yujing had passed through layers of the void and headed south. It had arrived at the territory of the Northern Militant Royal Court. After the Northern Militant cultivators on the mountain had contacted the Royal Court, Mount Yujing exited the void and returned to the vast thousand domains. The Northern Militant Royal Court quickly responded. A burly man whose physical strength was in no way inferior to Prince Swordsmanship ascended Mount Yujing. This person was also a first-tier primordial soul realm expert, but he was Prince Wuxia of the Northern Militant Royal Court. When he saw Prince Swordsmanship's body, he looked sad and let out a mournful howl. The surrounding Northern Militant cultivators all looked up at the sky and wailed. After the group of Northern Militant cultivators collected Prince Swordsmanship's body, Prince Wuxia cupped his fists and bowed to Lin Feng. "Thank you, Master of the Celestial Sect, for escorting our compatriots back to the Northern Militant. The Great Chanyu and the High Priest are waiting in Royal City. We hope to meet you." Lin Feng nodded. The guests will follow the host's wishes. Only the three of them participated in the meeting between the Great Chanyu and the High Priest and Lin Feng. Even Prince Wuxia had left, so no one knew what they talked about. However, the Northern Militant did not deliberately keep the news of their meeting a secret. After the news spread, it naturally caused a lot of speculation and affected the nerves of many people, especially the Great Qin dynasty, the Great Zhou dynasty, and the Heavenly Pool sect. After Lin Feng left the Northern Militant Royal Court, he drove Mount Yujing back to Kunlun Mountain. After arriving at the Kunlun Mountain range, Lin Feng suddenly remembered that there was still a dragon waiting in Sand Continent City. With a sweep of his divine sense, Lin Feng saw Jie Feng and Tunten fighting over the treasures from the Kuanpeng's secret treasury. He chuckled and immediately crushed the sound transmission crystal, contacting Heavenly Trade Pavilion Song Fu. "Steward Song, you told me before that the Dragon Clan has come to visit. Is she still waiting in Sand Continent?" Song Fu immediately replied, "That's right." After a slight pause he softly said, "Sect Master Lin, she comes from Taishu Temple." Lin Feng smiled. "Invite her up the mountain." Lin Feng used his magic power to connect the void, and a purple path appeared in the sky above Sand Continent City. Soon, a white figure landed on the purple chi and cupped his hands together. "Dragon Clan's white light greets Sect Master Lin." She was a tall and slender beauty with a heroic air about her. She was dressed in white and her figure was much taller than the average woman, even taller than the average man. However, her figure was well proportioned, so she did not look ugly when she stood there, and instead gave off a sense of heroic beauty. Her dragon aura had been withdrawn, and only the two sparkling jade-like horns on her forehead revealed her identity as a pure Dragon Clan bloodline. Lin Feng swept a glance at her attire. White Jade Dragon Clan? There were many different clans of primordial heavenly dragons. Jieyu belonged to the Black Refining Dragon Clan. They did not know any spells but had a strong physical body. They had a special ability to dispel curses and refine armor. After mastering the Black Refining Dragon scales, they had extremely high defensive power against spells, and had very few natural enemies. The vermilion flame demon eye that Yan Mingyue had given to Lin Feng belonged to the Fire Dragon Clan. They were innately unafraid of all fire, and did not care about anything other than the 7 great true fires. Moreover, they could swallow the rare dragon fire of the Dragon Clan, and were extremely powerful. When a dragon transformed into human form, regardless of gender, they would usually transform their scales into armor. However, there was an exception, and that was the White Jade Dragon. The original form of the White Jade Dragon Clan did not have dragon scales. Young White Jade Dragons would have scales, but as they gradually matured, their strength would increase and their realm would increase. The White Jade Dragon would constantly shed its dragon scales. After forming a Fey core and advancing to the Demon Commander realm, the White Jade Dragon would completely shed its dragon scales. Its entire body would be as white as jade, pure and flawless to the point of being almost transparent. The White Jade Dragon clan's innate divine ability was to transform between the real and the illusory world. It made the enemy's attacks, be it Dharma spells or physical martial arts, unable to harm them. In a sense, they could be said to be the Dragon clan with the strongest defense. Taishu Temple's mystic art, infinite transformation, was actually a Dharma spell created by the mighty figures of Taishu Temple, by referring to the White Jade Dragon clan's divine ability. It could be said to be marvelous, but it had many limitations. Compared to the true Jade Dragon divine ability, it was slightly inferior. Lin Feng's purple aura swept up and brought the White Jade Dragon up Yujing Mountain, landing in front of him. When she saw Lin Feng, she bowed again. Sect Master Lin, White Light of the Dragon clan greets you. Lin Feng nodded. White Light continued to ask, Sect Master Lin, forgive me for being presumptuous. May I ask, is the Black Rock on your mountain? Black Rock? Lin Feng was slightly taken aback and immediately reacted. You're talking about Jiyu? White Light's expression changed slightly. You know his real name? Lin Feng came to a realization. He had forgotten that the Dragon clan was different from the other demon clans. Their real names were never spread to outsiders. Only they and their closest relatives knew of it. Every dragon would give themselves a fake name to use when interacting with others. It was also called a nickname. It was not that they were not honest, but the Dragon clan's real name contained curse power, and was connected to the owner's essence, chi, and spirit. If outsiders knew of it, they would easily be targeted. The true name of Taishu Temple, the art of dragon control, was based on this. However, it could only be used to restrict the Dragon clan with lower cultivation. Presumably, the White Light in front of him also had a real name. Her current name was just a nickname. Lin Feng said indifferently, You're Jiyu's wife? White Light was silent for a while before nodding. I've specially come to look for him. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth revealed an imperceptible and somewhat mischievous smile. He's indeed here. You can go look for him yourself. On Yujing Mountain, Jiyu, who was fighting with Tunten over a portion of Koan Peng marrow fluid, suddenly shuddered. The dragon scales all over his body trembled, his intuition telling him that something bad was about to befall him. Chapter 434. The old dragon suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, as if a disaster was about to befall him. This feeling, it's so familiar. While he was distracted, the Kuanping marrow fluid in the container was snatched away by Tunten. Jiayu snapped out of his trance and glared at Tunten. You glutton, it's not enough for you to eat your own, now you want to snatch mine? Tunten made a face at him. It's a waste to give it to you. Jiayu was furious. Taotai, are you asking for a beating? Tunten sneered. You think you can beat me? Don't forget, I have formed my demon infant now. It's not a problem for me to beat two of you. Tunten was obviously bragging when he said he could beat two of them, but Jiayu's chances of winning were slim in a one-on-one fight. Jiayu was a little depressed. He was an armored black dragon that did not know any techniques and had a powerful physical body. He was supposed to be the bane of the Taotai, but Tunten was different from the rest. It had cultivated the true Sunfire divine light, and its physical body was stronger than the average Taotai. Just you wait. After I ask for the Tine True Water from the sect leader, I will come and settle the score with you. At that time, I will hang you up and beat you up. Jiayu thought hatefully and glanced at Tunten. A good man does not fight with a woman. A good male dragon will not lower himself to the level of a female Taotai. Tunten curled its lips. Come on, I'll beat 5 of you who are afraid of your wife. Beside him, Shi Tianhao burst into laughter. Zhuge Fengling and Jun Zining were afraid of Jiayu's Demon King realm, and did not dare to show it. However, they both turned their backs to Jiayu, their shoulders trembling. Jiayu was furious. What nonsense are you talking about? I'll tear your mouth off if you continue to spout nonsense. He did not have much confidence when he said this. Do you think I've wronged you? Tunten smiled. A dragon of your age is definitely already married. The dragon race is lascivious by nature, yet you would rather stay on the mountain than return to the Great Void Temple's dragon pond to find your wife. If this isn't fear, what else can it be? Seeing that Shi Tianhao was laughing while the others had their backs to him and their shoulders were shaking more and more violently, Jieyu immediately became anxious and said angrily, "Shut up, what do you know? If I stay outside and don't go back, that woman won't even dare to make a sound. Even if I bring back a beautiful woman, it's nothing." Tuntun's large eyes swiveled in thought. "Oh, there are some suitable ones on this mountain." Jieyu looked at her contemptuously. "You? Let's wait for 1,000 years first." "Hey." Tuntun spat and cast a sidelong glance at Jieyu. "Have you forgotten about that fox? Hee, alluring fox monarch is one of the most beautiful women in the entire demon race. You can just bring her back." Jiefeng opened his mouth but did not say anything. He had only seen Hu Yinyan once from afar. By the standards of the demon race, she was a rare beauty. However, she was a woman even more ferocious than his wife. She had 8 foxtails and was a late-stage demon king at her peak. Although she was currently trapped by the mysterious heaven tribulation flame, she could not be underestimated. Moreover, even if she was really powerless, Jieyu would not dare to offend her. She was a temporary guest on Yujing Mountain. Tuntun sneered. "How is it? You have the heart but not the guts, right?" Jieyu composed himself and grinned. "She's the sect master's guest," Tuntun said mischievously. "I'm not asking you to force yourself to mate with her. If you can really make your wife obedient, wouldn't it be easy to trick Hu Yanyan? In any case, those vixens and a lecherous dragon like you are simply dry wood and raging fire. They hit it off immediately." Jieyu felt a little helpless at this moment. Although he was tempted, his intuition told him that he could not really do it. "I'll just go to the entrance of the cave and then retreat. That should be enough, right?" Jieyu thought to himself, but on the surface he patted his chest and said unconcernedly, "What's so difficult about that? Everything will be fine with a little hook of my claws." "Oh, husband, do you want to bring the Flame Fox King back to the Supreme Dragon Pond?" Just as Jieyu was trying to look impressive, a calm voice suddenly sounded. While the others were still baffled, Jieyu let out a shrill scream, as if someone had stepped on a cat's tail. Shi Tianhao and the others curiously turned their heads to see a tall and beautiful girl in white standing behind Jieyu. Her expression was calm and indifferent, and her temperament was unique. She was full of heroic spirit, but also had a hint of gentleness. The contradictory temperaments were mixed together, creating a different kind of beauty. It was just that the dragon might she exuded was stronger and more mighty than Jieyu's, and the pair of crystal-clear white jade-like horns on her head exposed her identity. She was also a member of the dragon race. When a demon transformed into a human, if they did not deliberately change their appearance, then the appearance of a human would basically be the same as that of a demon according to the aesthetic perception of the human race. Simply put, the girl in white in front of them was a rare beauty in the eyes of the human race. Therefore, her original dragon form was also a rare beauty in the eyes of the dragon race. Tuntun, Zhuge Fengling, and Jun Xining's eyes widened when they heard the way she addressed Jieyu. Zhuge Fengling twisted her stiff neck and looked at Jun Xining. "I didn't hear wrong, right? What did she just call the black dragon?" Jun Xining sat on the ground with her hands hugging her knees, her expression a little dull. "It seems to be husband." Zhuge Fengling almost choked on her saliva. "She's Jieyu's wife. With a wife like that, only someone sick in the head wouldn't go home." Tuntun curled his lips and directly concluded, "What a waste." Shi Tianhao looked at Jieyu curiously. "Hey, are you serious? I don't see you being so scared in front of my master." Jieyu gave Shi Tianhao a smile that was uglier than crying, then turned to look at his wife in front of him, Jade Dragon White Light. "Mama, wife, I." Jieyu's whole body was trembling, and he spoke shakily. He almost bit off half of his tongue. "Ma wife you, when did you come?" Jade Dragon White Light said calmly. "Not very long ago, just when husband said that you wanted to bring a beautiful woman back to the dragon pool." Jieyu was about to cry. At this moment he really wanted to slap himself twice. That's what you get for having such a cheap mouth. "Wife, listen to me. That was just a joke." Jieyu quickly said. "You know me the best. You should know that it was all a joke." White Light's expression was calm. as if she completely accepted Jiayu's explanation. Oh, is the Firefox King here too? She was calm and gentle, but Jiayu was even more scared. The scales all over his body kept trembling. No, no, no. White Light looked at him silently. Jiayu immediately did not dare to deny it. She is indeed here, but she was injured and was taken in by the sect master to recuperate on the mountain. I have never had any contact with her. I see. White Light nodded, as if she believed it. From the beginning to the end, her expression was very gentle, not impatient, nor angry, reflecting perfect self-restraint and manners. Tuntun's face revealed a disappointed expression. Why is she so easy to coax? There's nothing to see. Zhuge Fengling grinned and whispered, I think it's the opposite. Tuntun was stunned. What do you mean? Jun Zining also lowered her voice and said, Don't just look at her. Look at that black dragon. Oh. Tuntun woke up after hearing that. He saw that not only did Jiayu not relax, but he seemed even more terrified. Lin Feng was currently standing on the trunk of the mysterious sky treasure tree. In front of him was a ball of light and shadow, showing the situation on Jiayu and White Light's side. Zhu Yi, Xiao Yan, Yu Hongyan Kong Nanhua, Miao Shihao, and even King Kuei Niu and King Feilian in human form were standing behind Lin Feng. Everyone was looking at Jiayu and White Light in the light and shadow. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan both frowned slightly. Did he let his wife down? Kong Nanhua shook her head gently. I don't think it's that simple. His current emotion is not so much guilt, but fear. Miao Shihao chuckled. Interesting, interesting. This is really interesting. King Feilian was in human form. He looked like a tall and thin middle-aged man. He was originally the guardian beast of the Wind God sect. After the Wind God sect was destroyed, he was saved by Lin Feng and joined Xianmen Tianzong. He was usually cautious, but after making contributions to the Kunpeng hidden treasure a few days ago, he gradually integrated into Xianmen Tianzong and had some confidence in speaking. He said softly, Sect Master, this white jade dragon White Light is very famous among the dragon clan residing in the Dragon Pond of Taishu Temple. He formed a demon infant in a short period of time, and is also very strong in actual combat. He is one of the few rising stars of the dragon clan. Lin Feng nodded. He understood what King Feilian meant. Compared to such an outstanding White Light, Jiayu, who was only a late-stage demon commander before going to Yujing Mountain, was actually not worthy of him. It was actually quite rare for the two of them to be together. On the mountain, White Light looked at Jiayu silently and asked harmoniously, Then husband, why haven't you returned to the Dragon Pond? If you say you don't want to come back, you should have sent me a message. I've been waiting for you to return. Jiayu was tongue-tied. I asked Fairy Yen. She said that the master of the Mystic Gate did not restrict your freedom. As White Light spoke, she walked lightly toward Jiayu. In other words, it's your own decision not to return? She looked at Jiayu and suddenly smiled. It was a warm and beautiful smile. But when Jiayu saw this smile, he instantly turned into a frightened rabbit. Wife, I was wrong. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Jiayu instantly changed from human form to the true form of the black refining dragon. He turned around and was about to escape. His movements were vigorous and his speed was unprecedented. Unfortunately, he couldn't escape. Just as Jiayu's body was about to leap out, a slender jade foot directly stepped on Jiayu's huge tail. The two of them were completely disproportionate in size, but that jade foot was like a mountain that could stabilize the sea and hold up the sky, stepping on Jiayu heavily. No matter how he struggled, he could only twist on the spot in vain. He was unable to escape. White Light stepped on Jiayu's tail, and still had the appearance of speaking softly. Silently she asked, Husband, why aren't you answering me? Chapter 435. Jiayu, who had transformed into his dragon form, had a huge body that was more than 100 feet long. White Light, the jade dragon, was still in her human form. But when she stepped on Jiayu's dragon tail, Jiayu, who had reverted to his true form, could not move at all. When this scene landed in the eyes of the others, they were all slightly shocked. The combat strength of the demon race after manifesting their true form was quite a bit more superior to their human form. White light suppressing Jieyu, who manifested his dragon form true form with her human form, indicated that her strength was a great deal higher than Jieyu's. As demon kings, Kuei Nyo King and King Feilian frowned. The intermediate demon king Kuei Nyo King was still fine, but when King Feilian saw the miserable Jieyu, he immediately felt a slight chill down his back. Tunten, the little Taotai, also revealed a surprised expression. She also did not have the ability to suppress Jieyu, who had transformed into his true form, in her human form. Lin Feng looked at them and shook his head. This girl is now at the peak of the early Demon King level, and is about to advance to the intermediate Demon King level. The reason why she is so much better than Jieyu is because Jieyu has lost his courage and has no thoughts of resisting. If he struggles with all his strength, although he is still not her match, the gap will not be as big as now. Just as Lin Feng said, Jieyu was now completely numb. He turned his head, his dragon face filled with a fawning smile. "Ma, wife, listen to my explanation." White light turned her head to look at Shi Tianhao. Tunten and the others who were watching the show frowned slightly, and then looked at Jieyu. "Do you have your own cave residence on the mountain?" Jieyu hurriedly said, "Yes, yes." White light nodded and said calmly, "Take me there." Jieyu felt as if he had been granted amnesty. His current appearance was really a bit embarrassing. The current situation was enough to make him unable to lift his head on the mountain in the future. If it continued to develop, then he might as well find a place to dig a hole and bury himself in. "Let's go to your residence and have a good talk." White light looked at Jieyu and smiled, which was even more brilliant than before. Jieyu suddenly froze and shuddered. He subconsciously wanted to escape again, but he did not dare to. He could only lead the way in front while shivering. Seeing White Light smile, Lin Feng, Xiaoyan Zhu Yi, and the rest of the men all involuntarily shuddered. "Old Dragon is dead for sure this time," Xiaoyan said decisively. The others nodded in agreement. The couple wanted to have a private conversation, so Lin Feng put away the light and shadow mirror. However, as long as he was willing, nothing on Yujing Mountain could escape his eyes and ears. "Husband, why haven't you returned to the dragon pool?" Mother, wife, listen to my explanation. I'm considered to have left Taishu Temple and have officially joined Xianmen Tianzong. Oh, then you could have told me. I thought you were missing before, so I kept looking for you everywhere. Only when Fairy Yen sent me news did I realize that you were the one who refused to go back. That. I don't have the face to go back. After all, I was captured by Xianmen Tianzong back then. But the master of the Celestial Sect of Wonders did not restrict your freedom. Did he? Every time husband doesn't return to the dragon pool, it's because you've taken a fancy to a pretty girl outside. Which girl have you taken a fancy to this time? Could it really be the flame fox King Fox Yin Yan? And no, it's a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. The conversation suddenly fell into silence, leaving only the sound of Jieyu's scales lightly trembling, as if he was shivering. Just as Lin Feng felt that it was somewhat strange, Jieyu suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. "Wife, I was wrong. Spare me. Spare me. Ouch. Stop hitting. If you hit again, I'm going to fight back. Ouch. Sorry, I was wrong. I don't dare to fight back. Be gentler, spare me. Fatty White, that's enough. If you hit again, I'm really going to fall out." The voice suddenly stopped, and after a good while, Jieyu's terrified voice sounded. That, wife, White Light's voice sounded out once more, but it fell into an unprecedented rage. "Old Loach, what did you call me just now?" Jieyu wanted to cry, but had no tears. This time, he really would not die if he did not seek death. "Wife, I was wrong, please spare me this time. Ouch. Save me, Sect Master, save me." The old dragon's wails became more and more miserable at this moment. It was simply heartbreaking for those who heard, shedding tears. When Lin Feng heard until here, he decisively stopped his listening by the side and shook his head repeatedly. Too tragic. I really can't bear to carry on listening. After the husband and wife finished their heart-to-heart talking came out, Lin Feng saw Jieyu again, and discovered that he did not have any scars on the surface, especially no scars on his face. But when Lin Feng used magic power to sweep, he discovered that under Jiayu's scale armor, it was already riddled with scars. The old dragon looked at Lin Feng with a wronged look. That appearance was just like a little girl who had just been gang-raped by 100 burly men, miserable to the extreme. Lin Feng secretly laughed in his heart, but his face still looked serious as he replied, "Jiayu, congratulations on your reunion." Jiayu's face revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. "Thank you, sect master." After a pause, he really could not bear it anymore and complained to Lin Feng, "Sect master, why did you let my wife up the mountain? This old dragon is really miserable this time. You have become my disciple, so you are a member of Xianmen Tianzong. If the Taishu temple comes looking for you, I will not care," Lin Feng said lightly, "but she is different. After all, you are husband and wife. If you do not want to return to the dragon pool of the Taishu temple, I will not force you. If she specially came all the way here to find her husband, I will not force her." He looked in the direction of the barren sky valley and said, "That young lady from the Jun family, if she doesn't want to go home, I won't chase her away. However, if someone from her family comes looking for her, I won't stop them either. However, if she joins the celestial sect of the Xian Gate and becomes a disciple, then that's another matter." Jiayu snorted, "I do not want to return to the Supreme Dragon Pool." Lin Feng said, "Then you will have to convince your wife yourself. You do not have to act pitiful in front of me. This time, the treasures found in the Kuanpeng's treasury will not be forgotten without you." He looked at Jiayu's right wrist and suddenly laughed, "But it seems that your wife has already brought you something good." Jiayu wore a blue bracelet on his right wrist. There was a mysterious spell flowing in the bracelet. At the mention of this thing, Jiayu's face suddenly fell again. He wailed, "Sect master, you do not know how wicked this thing is. This bracelet is a pair. The other one is on my wife's hand. Usually, it is not a big deal, but as long as she is willing, she can find my location even if it is thousands of miles away and immediately rush over through space. Moreover, this thing can also be used as a shackle. It may not seem like much now, but as long as she wills it, the two bracelets will immediately be linked together." Jiayu looked at Lin Feng pitifully and said, "Sect master, can you think about it and see if you can help me remove this thing?" Lin Feng looked at Jiayu with some amusement and said, "It is not difficult for me to remove it for you. But are you sure that if you do this, you will not be beaten up by your wife again?" Jiayu opened his mouth but could not make a sound. In the end, he lowered his head dejectedly. A fragrant wind blew and Miao Shihao suddenly appeared at the side. He stared at the blue bracelet on Jiayu's wrist and asked with bright eyes, "Old dragon, do you have any extra of this thing? Give brother Shihao one too." Jiayu said snappily, "Mirror Flower Supreme, don't joke around. Just this one is a bit too much for me. If you give me another one, I will have to cut my own throat and commit suicide." "If that is the case, then forget it." Miao Shihao was not willing to give up. He put his right index finger to his lips and said, "I will ask your wife again." Jiayu looked weak and said, "Take care, Mirror Flower Supreme. But what do you want this thing for?" Miao Shihao covered his mouth and smiled shyly. He glanced at Lin Feng with his peach blossom eyes. Seeing this, Lin Feng and Jiayu both shivered. "Get lost." Lin Feng waved his hand in annoyance, and did not bother with Miao Shihao. Miao Shihao did not get angry and looked at Jiayu with a smile. "Let's go. Introduce me to your wife." Jiayu nodded with a bitter smile and left with Miao Shihao. Lin Feng looked at Miao Shihao's back and suddenly said, "Shihao, both Jiayu and his wife Baiguang are from Taishu Temple." Miao Shihao did not turn his head and waved his hand carelessly. He said as he walked, "I know, but they are different from those coarse people from Taishu Temple. They are very different." Lin Feng continued, "The dragon race is also a demon race and is not proficient in refining weapons. That bracelet may have been refined by someone from Taishu Temple." Hearing this, Miao Shihao stopped in his tracks and looked at Jiayu in disgust. "Really?" Jiayu nodded. "I heard from my wife that it was made by an elder from Taishu Temple." Brother Shihao immediately lost interest. He curled his lips and left Jiayu with a gloomy expression. Lin Feng was currently snickering when he saw this, but he vaguely heard Miao Shihao muttering quietly, "When I break through that void temple one day, I'll definitely capture this person and force him to reveal the refinement method. At that time I'll refine it myself, humph." Lin Feng was speechless and shook his head. He was defeated by Brother Shihao again. Jieyu was unwilling to return to Dragon Pool, and Bai Guang did not force him this time. However, Jieyu's nightmare was far from over because Bai Guang also temporarily stayed on Yujing Mountain after receiving Lin Feng's permission. She did not leave Taishu Temple, but stayed temporarily like Hu Yanyan. The old dragon could do nothing about this. His gaze when he looked at Lin Feng became more and more resentful. After Lin Feng allowed Bai Guang to stay, he temporarily put the matter of this couple to the back of his mind. Right now, his attention was on that little friend Li Yuanfang who had a total talent potential of over 30. He had just received a report from Zhu Yi that Li Yuanfang had already woken up. His injuries had recovered quite well. After he could move freely, Li Yuanfang came to visit Lin Feng under Zhu Yi's lead. "Thank you, senior, for saving my life and allowing me to stay." Li Yuanfang bowed to Lin Feng seriously. His actions were methodical. Lin Feng glanced at Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi nodded slightly. When Li Yuanfang bowed to him after waking up, he was also meticulous like this. "Rise." Lin Feng silently watched Li Yuanfang stand up and asked, "What do you plan to do next?" Chapter 436. Lin Feng looked at Li Yuanfang and pondered in his heart. I wonder how his relationship with his original master is. Will he be able to change his mind in such a short period of time? Looking at his personality, he should be the more serious and stubborn type. Lin Feng was very optimistic about Li Yuanfang's development. On one hand, the total value of his innate potential was 31. On the other hand, his 4 potential stats were pretty good, and he didn't have any obvious shortcomings. Bone frame 7 was relatively low. It couldn't be said to be heaven-defying, but it was enough. Zhu Yi only had a bone frame of 7. The so-called low here depended on who he was compared to. Compared to Shi Tianhao, he was trash, but compared to the general public, he was already quite outstanding. He was only 16 or 17 years old, but he had already opened up his qi and cultivated to the early stage of foundation establishment. It could be seen that his innate talent was quite good. For bone frame innate talent, it mainly came into play before forming the nascent soul. After forming Yuanying, the influence of the bone frame would be very weak. Only Shi Tianhao, who had a heaven-defying bone frame of 10, was an exception. Perception 9 was definitely a monstrous level. Needless to say, this attribute could be used for the rest of his life. However, on this point Lin Feng still needed to observe. From what Lin Feng knew, Li Yuanfang's original master, Patriarch He too, entered the Tao through formations. His Tao arts and divine arts were all related to formations. This Li Yuanfang cultivated under Patriarch He too like a fish in water. Perhaps it was because his comprehension of formations was especially high? If that was the case, he hoped that he wasn't a pure bias student, and had a higher comprehension in other aspects. Mental strength 9 was more impressive. It could guarantee that he wouldn't waste his innate talent. To put it bluntly, he could just casually teach him some things and let him roam freely. He would also be able to achieve good results. Luck of 6 was a little low, but it still depended on who you were compared to. Compared to Zhu Yi's luck, almost everyone was trash. Relatively speaking, Six's luck was already very good. There wouldn't be any big fortuitous encounters, but there would still be some small benefits. Lin Feng now also has a clearer understanding of these 4 talent potential values. To sum it up, Li Yuanfang, this kid has a bright future ahead of him. As long as he doesn't court death, then he's destined to shine and create a world that belongs to him. Perhaps it wouldn't blind everyone's eyes, but it definitely wouldn't go unnoticed. Therefore, Lin Feng was quite optimistic about Li Yuanfang, but he didn't show it. He wanted to ask Li Yuanfang for his opinion first. Although Li Yuanfang was much calmer than his peers, he was only 16 or 17 years old after all. He had just experienced the greatest accident in his life in Kunpeng's treasury. Elder He too, who had been taking care of him and teaching him, passed away, which was a great blow for him. He just didn't understand the ways of the world, but he wasn't indifferent to emotions. Hearing Lin Feng asking him about his next plan, the teenager's eyes showed a rare look of confusion. But he quickly calmed down and didn't rush to speak. After thinking for a moment, he seriously replied, "I want to try to go back and find my fellow apprentices." Slowly Lin Feng said, "Then, I have bad news for you." Li Yuanfang's heart sank, and then he heard Lin Feng continue to say, "In addition to you, who was saved by my disciple Zhu Yi, I'm afraid your fellow apprentices were all killed in the great change in Kuanpeng's treasury." Lin Feng had seized and refined half of Kuanpeng's treasury. All the cultivators who had entered the treasury before, as long as they were still alive, were on his side. Black-feathered Kuanpeng's half included Dao Master IC, who had been swallowed previously. This half of Kuanpeng's remains was refined by Lin Feng into a blue-black palace. After the battle, all the people were released by Lin Feng, but except for Li Yuanfang who was with Zhu Yi, Lin Feng didn't find any other disciples of Elder He Tuesday. Those who disappeared were basically killed when the ancient Kuanpeng was resurrected. Hearing this news, Li Yuanfang opened his eyes wide. After a long time, he let out a long breath and lowered his head in silence. Lin Feng looked at him and thought for a while. Then he said lightly, "I heard that your former master, Elder He Tu, entered the Tao by means of a raise?" Li Yuanfang came to his senses and replied solemnly, "Yes." Lin Feng nodded slightly. "Have you heard of the hell path of the Southern Wilderness Reincarnation Sect?" Li Yuanfang replied, "I've heard of it from my master. The Reincarnation Sect is a top sect in the Southern Wilderness. It was founded by the legendary reincarnation Taoist tens of thousands of years ago. When it was at its peak, it was as powerful as the Three Holy Lands. However, in the war with the monster realm 10,000 years ago, reincarnation Taoists died. Since then, the reincarnation sect has been divided and created the 6 paths of reincarnation: heaven, Shura, human, beast, hell, and hungry ghost. In the past, the reincarnation sect was close to the devil path. However, in recent years, it has gradually changed its style, and is no longer as cruel and ruthless. Li Yuanfang explained in detail what he knew about the reincarnation sect. The hell path is one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Its Taoism is through arrays, and its Dharma spells and divine powers are all kinds of arrays. Its disciples are all proficient in this path. Well, since you know about it, I won't say anything more. Lin Feng said, "I have some friendship with the reincarnation sect's hell path. If you're willing to join the reincarnation sect, I can introduce you to them." Li Yuanfang had learned Taoism from Patriarch He Tu in the past. The Taoism was through arrays. Patriarch He Tu was quite famous in the Arctic Ice Sea. However, he was only a Yuanying stage itinerant cultivator after all. He had to figure out everything on his own. Compared to the reincarnation sect's hell path, which was full of formation cultivators, and had developed for nearly 10,000 years, Patriarch He Tu was obviously not enough. It was like the difference between a private tutor and a top-notch formal school. Now that Patriarch He Tu is dead, his fellow sect members have all withered away. Li Yuanfang is left alone. Right now his cultivation is only at the foundation establishment stage. If he can obtain Lin Feng's recommendation, and obtain the qualifications to enter the reincarnation sect's hell path, it is undoubtedly a great opportunity for him. Li Yuanfang fell silent. His rationality told him that he should seize the opportunity in front of him. However, emotionally, he hoped that he could inherit Patriarch He Tu's legacy. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something. However, Lin Feng beat him to it and stopped him from saying anything. "I know that you're feeling emotional right now, so there's no rush. You can think about it carefully first and make a decision later." Li Yuanfang thought about it, and felt that Lin Feng's words were reasonable. He fell silent again. Lin Feng secretly laughed in his heart. Even though his attention was still on him, his line of sight was looking towards Zhu Yi at the side. "During this trip to the Arctic Sea, you also personally activated the yin and yang life and death formation. Did you get anything?" Zhu Yi answered. "It's broad and profound, as vast as the ocean." A light spot flew out from between Lin Feng's eyebrows and floated in the air. It turned into a formation the size of a millstone. Countless formations, patterns, and talismans were intertwined in the formation, forming an extremely complicated spiritual formation. It was the yin and yang life and death formation. With a thought, Lin Feng took a small fragment from the yin and yang life and death formation. It turned into a light shadow and floated between him and Zhu Yi. Even such a small fragment was formed by countless patterns and talismans. It contained all kinds of profound principles. Lin Feng smiled. I'm testing you. Deduce the changes of the formation here. Zhu Yi glanced at Li Yuanfang out of the corner of his eye. Then he secretly looked at Lin Feng with a probing gaze. Lin Feng smiled but did not say anything. Zhu Yi instantly had an idea in his heart, and did not say much, walking in front of the formation and starting to deduce on his own. Li Yuanfang's eyes lit up when he saw the yin and yang life and death formation. Then a hint of sadness appeared in his eyes. His master, ancestor he too, was an open-minded person. Before he died, he asked his disciples not to be sad for him. However, ancestor he too himself expressed some regret. He had never seen the great void yin-yang formation of the Great Void, or the great immortal myriad form sword formation of the Mount Shu sword sect, but he had seen the Vairocana formation with his own eyes. After seeing Lin Feng's yin and yang life and death formation, ancestor he too once said that it was comparable to the protective formation of the three holy lands, and even better than the great Zhou dynasty's divine martial immortal killing formation. Ancestor he too had been obsessed with formations all his life. He had hoped to have a chance to figure out the yin and yang life and death formation, and the Vairocana formation. However, he had died in the Kuanping's hidden treasure. Before he died, he had said that he hoped that Li Yuanfang and his disciples could have a glimpse of such an exquisite formation in the future. Only then would their journey on the path of cultivation not be in vain, and his spirit in heaven would be comforted. Li Yuanfang had always kept his words in mind. Back in the Arctic Ice Sea, he had also seen the yin and yang life and death formation unfolded. Even though he was just a bystander, he was still fascinated by it. Now that the Great Lane Temple had been destroyed and the Vairocana formation had disappeared without a trace, but the yin and yang life and death formation was right in front of him, Li Yuanfang could not help but be tempted. No matter how ignorant he was of the ways of the world, he knew that it was wrong to peep at the magical formations of other sections. Therefore, even though he was tempted, he still lowered his head and did not dare to look. Lin Feng and his disciple had saved his life and allowed him to stay on Yujing Mountain. He was already very grateful. Come and take a look. Lin Feng's voice suddenly rang in Li Yuanfang's ears. He was stunned and said hesitantly, Senior, but I... Lin Feng's smile was kind and warm. Your sect entered the path of cultivation through formations. It is fate that you came to my mountain today. There is no need to worry. Li Yuanfang stared blankly at Lin Feng. After a while he took a deep breath and bowed to Lin Feng. Thank you, Senior. He composed himself and came to the front of the formation. He first cupped his hands and bowed to Zhu Yi. After Zhu Yi nodded slightly, the two of them lowered their heads and seriously analyzed the changes in the formation. As they analyzed and deduced, they also casually smeared in the air, drawing runes and incantations. Lin Feng silently observed from the side. After a while, an imperceptible smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. In terms of speed, Zhu Yi was definitely faster, and not just by a little bit. In terms of cultivation, it was the middle stage of the golden elixir versus the early stage of the foundation establishment realm. Zhu Yi was also Lin Feng's direct disciple, so his cultivation in Tao was of the same origin as the yin and yang life and death formation. At the same time, Zhu Yi had personally controlled the yin and yang life and death formation in the Arctic Ice Sea, so he had real experience. If he still couldn't crush Li Yuanfang with this, he might as well destroy his own cultivation and go back to the furnace to cultivate again. But even so, in terms of formation talent, Li Yuanfang was not inferior to Zhu Yi at all. In fact, he was even better. Seeing him derive runes one after another at an increasingly faster speed, Lin Feng knew that he was indeed talented in this path. At least if Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others were to do this when they were in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, They definitely wouldn't be able to do it so fast. Suddenly, Lin Feng had a wicked idea in his heart. On the surface, he asked calmly, Yuanfang, what do you think about this formation? It's amazing. Li Yuanfang answered subconsciously without raising his head. Suddenly, he came back to his senses and felt that something was wrong. Senior, it's Yuanfang, not Yuanfang. Chapter 437. Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang thought that Lin Feng had made a slip of the tongue, but they did not know that Lin Feng was laughing unscrupulously in his heart. The yin and yang life and death formation was extremely complicated. Lin Feng was able to control it immediately because it was an item issued directly by the system, just like the doppelganger of the war god. Otherwise, it would not be easy for the primordial spirit big shots from the reincarnation sect and the hell path to completely understand every change in the formation. Even though they had only intercepted a small part of it, it was still very difficult for Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang to deduce it. After a while, Lin Feng used the excuse that the time limit was up and stopped the deduction. Then he simply tested the two of them. Li Yuanfang's face obviously showed that he had not had enough, but his eyes were full of gratitude when he looked at Lin Feng. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, thoughts flying in his mind. Seeing him like this, Lin Feng smiled in his heart, saying, regarding the choice of your future path, you don't have to rush to a conclusion yet. Go back and think about it carefully. You still need some time to recover from your injuries. Now rest in peace and organize your thoughts. Li Yuanfang nodded seriously and said, yes, thank you, senior. Looking at his back, Lin Feng laughed in his heart and said, you have to pay attention to the heat. If the fire is too strong, it will burn easily. Simmering it slowly is the right thing to do. After Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang left, Lin Feng turned his attention to the other side. He turned his palm over, and a piece of red wood appeared in his hand. It was about a foot long, and there was a faint flame flickering in the center of the wood. It was as if a living creature was breathing. The light and darkness were constantly intertwining. When the wood came into contact with Lin Feng's skin, Lin Feng could clearly feel a warmth. It was hot but not painful, and there was a sense of nobility and elegance. The flame in the center seemed like a heartbeat. It seemed inconspicuous, but when Lin Feng used his magic power to enter it, he could immediately feel a majestic and exuberant life force, like an inextinguishable flame. However, the flame did not seem aggressive. Instead, it had the power to warm the world. However, it was noble and arrogant, faintly repelling people from thousands of miles away. The lines on the surface of the wood twisted and spiraled, and vaguely outlined the figure of a phoenix, spreading its wings and letting out a long cry. Who would have thought that I would obtain a piece of the divine parasol tree? Lin Feng clicked his tongue in admiration. As soon as his iron tree clone came into contact with this piece of divine wood, he immediately sensed it, faintly feeling that this item was extraordinary. The sorrow iron tree and the divine parasol tree were the four great spiritual trees in the world, and they were spiritual plants that were created by heaven and earth. Lin Feng looked carefully and was slowly amazed. It doesn't seem like an ordinary divine parasol tree. It feels like a Wutong tree heart. Although it was only a piece of broken wood, the life force, conception, and exuberant life force contained in it far surpassed that of ordinary divine parasol trees. Lin Feng had a magic treasure embryo on hand. It was called the Fate Sealing Stone. After Lin Feng ascends to the primordial spirit stage, with it as the core, there was a high chance that he could refine a powerful magic treasure. Nonetheless, the life-sealing rock paled in comparison to the Wutong tree heart at the moment. The life force contained in both of them was equally exuberant, but the Wutong tree heart was superior. At the same time, Lin Feng could vaguely sense that this was only the tip of the iceberg of the Wutong tree heart's power, and there were many hidden things that he had yet to discover. This had nothing to do with cultivation base. If he wanted to find out, he would probably need other Wutong trees or the phoenix's bloodline. Lin Feng thought, the phoenix that entered the secret treasure with the Kuan Peng is probably targeting the Wutong tree heart. The phoenix cries on a high hill. The Wutong grows on a morning sun. There was a saying in ancient times that planting a Wutong attracts phoenixes. The phoenixes were arrogant and would not perch on anything other than a wutong. As far as Lin Feng knew, the phoenixes were unique in the demon realm and infinite mainland. They never got involved in other people's disputes. Due to their powerful abilities, other people were unwilling to provoke them. Apart from the phoenixes' own powerhouses, there were many powerful divine parasol trees that had lived for tens of thousands of years in the phoenixes' habitat. They were almost as powerful as the phoenixes themselves. The phoenixes and divine parasol trees were inseparable. When they worked together, even a great demon like the enchantress would not easily offend them. Just like that, the phoenixes and divine parasol trees pursued an isolated island policy. They were almost independent of infinite mainland. Although they were not completely isolated, they rarely interacted with the outside world. The Kuan-Peng demon race was one of the few demon races that had always interacted with the phoenixes. Lin Feng weighed the wutong tree heart in his hand and pondered. If I don't handle it well, it might be a disaster. But if I handle it well, it might have an unexpected effect. It's a pity that I have too little information at hand, so it's hard to make a judgment. It'll be great if I have more information. When the ancient Kuan-Peng's body was decomposed, the demonic phoenix Black Jade, which had entered the secret treasure with the black-feathered Kuan-Peng, was left in the black-feathered Kuan-Peng's body, whereas the wutong tree heart was left with Lin Feng. Shaking his head, Lin Feng temporarily put the matter aside. He raised his head and looked towards the empty space outside of Jade Capital Mountain. There was a faint purple gas twisting in the space, blocking off two thin rays of light. Those rays of light were not real light, but were formed from spiritual sense and mana. Lin Feng looked down and saw that the two rays of light were emitted from the cave abode where Jieyu and his wife were. TSK, the enemy forces are still trying to kill me. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. But it's useless. I'd better think about how to deal with the Cheongqi demon race. Who knows if the 9 glory sky collapsing formation in those big demons' hands can be used again. If I underestimate the enemy, I'll be badly hurt. Under the starry sky, a green-clothed lady was strolling alone in the field. She seemed to be one with heaven and earth. When she walked, it was as if she was not the one moving, but the surrounding heaven and earth were moving together. The green-clothed lady suddenly stopped and raised her hand to draw a circle of light in the air in front of her. The image in the circle of light changed, and a young man's figure could be vaguely seen standing there. However, it was not clear, as if he was a phantom. Eldest senior brother? The green-clothed lady was naturally Yan Mingyue, and the person she called eldest senior brother was the most outstanding descendant of her generation in Taishu Temple, the current world wayfarer of Taoism, Lin Daohan. Lin Daohan said, "Junior sister Yan, I'll be going to Infinite Mainland soon and I can't be distracted. I'll have to trouble you to deal with the Cheongqi demon race." His voice was very calm and ordinary. It was not hoarse and low, loud and clear, not ear-piercing and not pleasant to the ear. His biggest characteristic was that he had nothing special. Ordinary would be the best adjective to describe him. However, this kind of ordinariness vaguely contained a kind of profound principle that all things return to the truth, and the great Tao was the simplest. The Cheongqi demon race has a total of 3 big demons who have cultivated the indestructible demon soul. Among them, the great sage Cheongqi is at the 2nd level of the indestructible demon soul, and is one of the 10 sages of the demon race. The Cheongqi demon race also has its own powerful magical powers. Lin Daohan said, "However, the most important thing is the 9 glory sky collapsing array. The array formation was broken on the North Wind Sea, but the array diagram was intact and was taken away by Cheongqi. Based on the information we received, Cheongqi is obviously gathering the treasures for the array formation again. However, we can't tell if it has gathered all the treasures." Lin Daohan said silently, "If I'm not wrong, the demon race in Infinite Mainland will also covet the array diagram, and keep searching for the whereabouts of the Cheongqi demon race. Junior sister Yan, please be careful. Killing Cheongqi demon race is secondary. The key is the array diagram of the 9 glory sky collapsing array. This array formation is too much of a threat to the divine land in the hands of the demon race. Don't worry, eldest senior brother, I'll be careful." Yan Mingyue asked curiously, Eldest senior brother, is it because of the Kuan Peng treasure that you want to go to Infinite Mainland personally? Lin Daohan answered, it's indeed because of the Kuan Peng treasure, but it's not because of the Kuan Peng demon race, but because of the phoenix race. Yan Mingyue's eyes flickered. The news is that a phoenix entered the treasure with Kuan Peng. If it's just to break the ice with pure Yang True Fire, the phoenix can stay outside. Eldest senior brother, are you suspecting that the phoenix race is involved? Yes, that's right, Lin Daohan said calmly. That's why I can't use a clone. I need to go in person this time. Yan Mingyue nodded and asked again, has White Light already gone to Yujing Mountain in Xianmen Tianzong? Lin Daohan said, that's right. He also saw the Black Dragon Mystic Rock, and is temporarily staying on Yujing Mountain. However, the restriction on Yujing Mountain seems to be quite strong. The dermic power waves of the hollow heart linking rings can't be transmitted out, so we can't use it to locate him. White Light can send out dermic power sound transmission. I think it can only be done with the tacit consent of the master of Xianmen. However, when the dermic power sound transmission is done, the hollow heart linking ring's dermic power waves are still isolated. Yan Mingyue shrugged and said indifferently, that's a pity. Lin Daohan's tone was as calm as before without the slightest change. It's just a test. He changed the topic and continued to ask, there's one thing that I need to confirm with junior sister Yan. Yan Mingyue said, eldest senior brother, please speak frankly. Lin Daohan asked silently. In the past, I got the news from Lu Yang, the sword cultivator of Mount Shu Sword Sect. The true cultivation of the master of Xianmen Tianzong doesn't seem to be high? Yes, there is indeed such a saying. Junior brother Chen Gang once went to Kunlun Mountain to look for him. At that time, Xianmen Tianzong had not yet established a sect, Yan Mingyue replied. But now it seems that it's not enough to believe. She glanced at the light shadow. Could it be that eldest senior brother has a new idea? Lin Daohan's voice was still calm. There are many doubtful points, but it's still to be determined. He spoke unhurriedly. The problem is that no one has really forced the master of Xianmen Tianzong into a desperate situation, so I still have doubts in my heart and can't make a final judgment. Yan Mingyue's eyes flashed with an incomprehensible look. Does eldest senior brother want to speed up the collision between him and Mount Shu Sword Sect? Chapter 438. Yan Mingyue asked, does eldest senior brother want to use the pressure of Mount Tai to force the master of the Xianmen sect to reveal himself? Silently Lin Daohan said, now is not the time. Whether it is Taishu Temple or myself, we all hope that his Xianmen Tianzong can play a role in keeping the Shushan sword sect in check. If he is strong, we can only wish for it. If he is weak, we can help him. Of course, the prerequisite is that he has enough potential and ability. At present, although it is blurry, we can draw a rough outline. As Lin Daohan spoke, a spot of light appeared in the air in front of Yan Mingyue. Then it kept moving. Wherever the spot of light passed, it left a clear mark that did not dissipate for a long time. The movement of the spot of light formed a ray of light. The ray of light outlined a person's appearance in a few strokes. It seems ostentatious, but in fact he plans before he acts. He will take into account the reactions of all sides. He knows when to advance and when to retreat, and he will not be insatiable. Silently Lin Daohan said, but there will often be conflicts. Some are purposely set up traps, and some are really out of character. The spot of light stopped moving. Silently, a shadow of a person floated in the air. It was Lin Feng's appearance. In general, his style is tough, but not reckless. Every step he takes has a clear goal and interest. Occasionally he will act casually, but not often. Lin Daohan's tone was calm. Besides, this person is good at borrowing power. He has a deep understanding of Taishu Temple. We have the intention of supporting him, and he has taken advantage of our power. But his thinking is very clear. He has no intention of relying on Taishu Temple. As for his personal cultivation, Lin Daohan continued, although we have not really seen the bottom, we can make a rough estimate. First, the 9-glory sky-shattering formation at the Desolate Sea Spiritual Conference was limited in power because of the formation treasure. Its attack power was about the peak of the second tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm, or slightly higher, but definitely lower than the third tier. He didn't do anything himself. Instead, he used that big black umbrella, a strange treasure. Secondly, in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, Tao Master Heavenly Wind used his full strength to control the 9 heavens astral gale formation, and the Golden Crow Great Saint. Both of them were at the second tier of the primordial spirit realm. He didn't do it himself. Instead, he used his mountain Mount Yujing to break the 9 heavens gale formation, kill Tao Master Tianfeng, and suppress the Golden Crow Great Saint. Lin Daohan was neither fast nor slow as he deduced one by one in a clear and orderly manner. Third, in the Battle of the Arctic Ice Sea, the ancient Kuanping was resurrected. This demon was originally at the third tier of the indestructible demon soul, but its soul was not fully integrated and awakened. Its strength at that time should be at the peak of the second tier of the indestructible demon soul. The master of the Celestial Gate of Wonders still didn't take action himself. Instead, he used other methods to destroy the resurrection of the ancient Kuanping, and seized half of the Kuanping's remains. Silently, Lin Daohan said, "If there is only one, it might be a coincidence. But if there are so many, it proves one thing. This person is deliberately hiding his strength. It could be high or low, but it's more likely that his strength is low. At least, it can't be at the third tier of the primordial spirit realm." Yen Mingyue listened to Lin Daohan's deductions with a smile and asked, "He used a doppelganger at the Yuanying stage to destroy the resurrection of the ancient Kuanping. He must have used the magical effect of the Scorpio golden bead, right?" Lin Daohan replied, "According to the records in the temple, the demon clan's fate-reversing soul revival ritual must meet 3 conditions. First, it doesn't matter if the target's divine spirit is destroyed, but the bloodline and body must remain. Second, it must be a direct descendant of the resurrected target who sacrificed himself. At the same time, the cultivation must be at least at the Demon King realm. Third, and most importantly, there must be a fate-reversing heaven stone." The main reason why this ritual was lost in the long river of history, and few people know about it, is that the fate-reversing heaven stone has not appeared in the world for tens of thousands of years. During the ritual, there must be no disturbance, or the ritual will immediately fail. But it's not easy to disrupt the ritual. Lin Daohan said, "If Lin Feng did not use the Scorpio golden bead to duplicate the fate-reversing heaven stone and disrupt the ritual, I really can't think of any other way to do it. If there is, then it means that his means are beyond our knowledge. I have to overturn all my previous deductions." Yen Mingyue pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Eldest senior brother, do you think it's possible that he has not cultivated a primordial spirit at all?" During the battle outside the Sandbar city, although Pang Jie was no match for him at all, when junior brother Pang took out the magic treasure hexagonal sword, he no longer fought personally. Instead, he used his formation to wrap the hexagonal sword in junior brother Pang. Does this mean that his true cultivation is not enough to defeat junior brother Pang with the hexagonal sword? Or at least it's possible that his true cultivation is exposed? Lin Daohan said, "It's entirely possible but not certain. Therefore, according to my deductions, this person's cultivation is most likely at the first tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm, followed by the pinnacle of the Yuanying realm. The possibility of a second-tier primordial spirit transformation realm is lower, and a third-tier primordial spirit transformation realm is completely out of the question." Yen Mingyue muttered, "Yes, at least that primordial spirit transformation realm cannot be explained." Lin Daohan said calmly, "That armor of his can be used as a way to test things out. This time, when you go with him to the medium-class world to fight the Qiongqi, you can keep an eye out. You might as well find a chance to probe the background of his magic treasure." Yen Mingyue nodded. "I will." The green-clothed girl suddenly smiled. She brushed her hair behind her ear and asked, "Eldest senior brother, what if, and I mean what if, our deductions are wrong, and this person's cultivation is much higher than the first tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm? Lin Daohan said calmly. Then I will be very happy that the Shushan sword sect has a strong opponent. Yan Mingyue smiled. What if his cultivation is much lower than the first tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm? Since the start of the conversation, Lin Daohan, who had been calm since the start of the conversation, suddenly fell silent. He seemed to have a slight emotional fluctuation. After a while he said silently, if his cultivation is much lower than the first tier of the primordial spirit transformation realm, it means that the Dao technique he cultivates is above the great Dao mystical arts of our Taishu temple. Yan Mingyue smiled and did not say anything else. Lin Daohan's emotional fluctuation only lasted for a moment, and he quickly returned to normal. His gaze pierced through the endless void and landed on Yan Mingyue. Junior sister Yan, are you sure you want to continue on that path? Yan Mingyue answered calmly. I believe that the path I have chosen is the right one. Lin Daohan nodded. If that's the case, I respect your choice. From now on, we will still be walking side by side. But sometimes we will have to face each other and see who is better. Yan Mingyue chuckled. This is the worst news I've heard in my life. But it doesn't matter. At least our ultimate goal is the same. She knew very well that if their ultimate goal was not the same, she would not have the chance to leave White Cloud Mountain. Lin Daohan said silently, that's right. Whether it's us or junior brother Pang and the others, our ultimate goal is the same. Junior sister Yan, I look forward to your performance. Perhaps you will really surprise me. As she spoke, the light figure in front of Yan Mingyue disappeared. Silently, Yan Mingyue did not move. After a long time, she cast her gaze towards the distant horizon. It was as if she had passed through endless space. Her gaze was a little dazed. Lin Feng, what kind of person are you? On Mount Yujing, Lin Feng looked at the frowning black dragon Jieyu with a bit of amusement. Regarding the bracelet brought by Jade Dragon White Light, Lin Feng did not care too much. Either way, he could block the magic power transmission of the bracelet, not letting some people with ulterior motives lock onto Jade Capital Mountain's position in the void turbulent flows. Looking at White Light's appearance, she was not aware of this. Therefore, Lin Feng did not plan on making things clear either. But Jieyu was troubled. Looking at that empty heart-link bracelet, he hung his head and sighed. Lin Feng looked at him, not knowing whether to be angry or amused. He asked, since you can't get along so well, why did you marry her in the first place? The old dragon had a sorrowful look on his face. Sect Master, I didn't want it either. It was my wife who invited an elder to make the decision and set up our marriage. Oh. Lin Feng was really rather surprised this time. It was actually her who chased you instead? You really can't judge a book by its cover. I've really underestimated you in the past. Jieyu grinned. Sect Master, your words hurt me too much. To think that this old dragon was also one of the best in the Supreme Dragon Pool back then. Under Lin Feng's doubtful gaze, Jieyu's words became less and less confident. Finally, he let out a bitter laugh. Actually, I also didn't expect it to be like this. My wife is the #1 beauty of the Supreme Dragon Pool's younger generation. When she chose this old dragon back then, I really felt like I was dreaming. Jieyu said. Sect Master, you should also know that the White Jade Dragon clan has to continuously shed their scales from childhood to adulthood, right? Lin Feng nodded. That's right, this seat knows. Actually, she was rather unremarkable when she was young. A look of reminiscence surfaced in Jieyu's eyes. Shedding scales made her scales all over her body. She was terribly ugly. Furthermore, her figure back then was very fat and short, simply like a wooden stake. Speaking up to here, Jieyu felt somewhat guilty. His eyes furtively swept the surroundings, fearful that White Light would suddenly appear again. If those words just now were heard by White Light, he would inevitably get a good beating again. Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. Your wife is resting in the stone chamber. Don't be like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough. After Jieyu let out 2 embarrassed laughs, his eyes looked in the direction of his stone chamber residence. Actually, the White Jade Dragon clan will all shed their scales. Only her figure is fat, so she appears especially ugly. At that time, some dragons of the same age as her often teased her. Lin Feng smiled. You stepped forward bravely? Jieyu was a little embarrassed. I'm older and cultivated early. At that time, I was already a demon commander. My father and her father are best friends, so I helped her. Melodramatic, oh melodramatic. Wait, something doesn't seem right. Lin Feng sighed in admiration in his heart. Then he looked at Jieyu somewhat strangely. That's not right. According to this seat's observation, your wife's personality should be rather calm and self-restrained. Only when facing you does she seem to change into a different person. Just because she's jealous? The corners of Lin Feng's mouth twitched slightly when he saw Jieyu's rather awkward smile. He suddenly recalled the painful development between Tunton and the Blackwater mysterious underworld, and his heart began to pound. You demon race can't all be so strange, right? Chapter 439. The corners of Lin Feng's mouth twitched slightly, looking at Jieyu rather speechlessly. Other than being jealous, did you provoke your wife in other ways? Jieyu smiled extremely awkwardly and said hesitantly, that sect master, you don't know, although I protected her when she was young, her talent was one of the best in our entire Supreme Dragon Pool. So her strength rose very quickly, and in a few years she was even stronger than me. Jieyu's expression was somewhat disappointed at this time. She's a nostalgic person. She didn't forget this old dragon, even after becoming an adult. At that time, she had already become the #1 beauty of the dragon pool. Her potential and strength were also very high. Being together with her, it was my turn to become the object of everyone's ridicule instead. Jieyu grinned and said rather unhappily, I also worked hard to cultivate. I don't hope to surpass her, but at least not be worse than her, right? But geniuses and ordinary people are really different. As time passed, not only did I not close the gap, but the gap became bigger and bigger instead. Jieyu said dejectedly. Later she took the initiative to propose marriage to the elders. We got married, but the people who ridiculed and ostracized me became more and more. When Lin Feng heard up to here, he secretly curled his lips and thought to himself, isn't this nonsense? A fresh flower stuck on your whatever, it would be weird if it didn't draw hatred. Lin Feng didn't even need to think to know that back then, when White Light took the initiative to propose marriage to Jieyu, she probably overcame a lot of resistance from the dragon race elders. Even Taishu Temple probably wouldn't be happy. The demon race's marriage issue was simpler than the human race, but it was also more primitive and crude. That was, the strong would marry the strong. Especially the female strong must marry the male strong. This involved the issue of the next generation's fertility. Lin Feng looked at Jieyu, his gaze sizing him up, and said somewhat disdainfully, the more it's like this, the more you should work hard to become stronger. Jieyu nodded embarrassedly, but his eyes revealed helplessness and despair. The talent gap between him and White Light was in all aspects. Enjoying the same resources and conditions, his strength would only be worse. Even though White Light had never said anything before, Jieyu felt the pressure in front of her getting greater and greater. Guilt and admiration fused together, and actually made him more and more fearful of facing White Light. Lin Feng glared at him. Come on, if you were really afraid of your wife, would you still flirt around outside? Speaking of which, it's really hard for you to be my monk dragon for so long. Generally speaking, if the legal wife was too domineering, her husband's dignity as a male would suffer a serious setback, and he would seek a balance with the weaker and more docile opposite sex. When Jieyu heard this, he quickly waved his hand. Sect master, you've misunderstood just like my wife. I've never wronged her. Although I'm tempted by other beauties sometimes, it's just a thought. I've never wronged my wife. Lin Feng smiled and said, then your wife said that every time you didn't return to the dragon pool, you were charmed by someone else? Jieyu smiled bitterly and said, that's why I said it was really a misunderstanding. She would have that kind of misunderstanding mainly because... Speaking up to here, Jieyu suddenly stopped talking, and the expression on his face became even more awkward. Lin Feng looked at him curiously. What's going on? Jieyu shook his head repeatedly, his face full of regret, and directly wanted to turn around and leave. He didn't intentionally keep Lin Feng in suspense, but he really let it slip. Right now it was too late for regrets. Lin Feng stopped him and said indifferently, "Jieyu, you shouldn't have hidden the matter of you peeping on Hu Yanyan from your wife." Jieyu's eyes widened. "I didn't." Lin Feng said silently, "Who can prove it?" Jieyu's face was immediately filled with grief and indignation. "Sect Master, you're clearly framing this old dragon?" Lin Feng nodded nonchalantly. "You know what to do now." "Sect Master, with your status, how could you do such a thing?" Jieyu's eyes kept turning, trying to dispel Lin Feng's thoughts. "This is detrimental to your dignity." Lin Feng chuckled. "You seem to be mistaken about one thing. At my level, I can do whatever I want. Why would I be limited by those superficial rules and regulations? This seat's dignity has never come from a straight face." Jieyu was completely in despair. His eyes widened, and he panted heavily. After a long time, he sat down on the ground, looking at Lin Feng with grief and indignation, but there was nothing he could do. He hesitated for a long time, and said hesitantly, "My wife would have that kind of misunderstanding mainly because of that. We've been married for more than 100 years, and the number of times we've slept together." He was in human form at the moment. He stretched out his hand and spread his fingers. After thinking for a while, he stretched out his other hand and spread it out. Roughly can be counted on the fingers of 2 hands. Jieyu said rather embarrassedly. His voice became smaller and smaller, and his head drooped lower and lower. In the end, he simply wished he could find a hole in the ground to burrow into. Lin Feng looked at him with some shock. "How can that be?" He sized Jieyu up and down. Although some words were not spoken, how could Jieyu not see through that gaze? "I'm very normal," the old dragon said in a high voice. But immediately he was somewhat lacking in confidence. "It's just that when facing my wife, I can't quite bring out my strength." Seeing that Lin Feng still did not believe, Jieyu panicked. "It's true. When facing other women, I'm very normal. Although there aren't real swords and spears, there are real reactions." Lin Feng looked at Jieyu in front of him, and then his gaze looked in the direction of the cave that Jieyu lived in. He could not help curling his lips. What a waste. Husband and wife's life being so disharmonious. It was also no wonder that White Light would often be jealous, suspecting that Jieyu was womanizing outside. He suddenly thought of something and looked at Jieyu. "Then you guys don't have heirs either?" Jieyu nodded with a bitter smile. Lin Feng could not help being at a loss whether to laugh or cry. This problem was a little serious. According to what he knew, dragons were lustful by nature. Mating with other demon races, giving birth to mixed blood descendants was very easy. There were many demon races that had dragon race bloodline. Oftentimes it was some dragons who did not control their waistbands, the product of a single spring breeze. But the awkward thing was that it was extremely difficult to reproduce pure-blooded descendants between the dragon race. White Light and Jieyu's union was originally denounced by people within the dragon race, feeling that it was a waste of White Light's bloodline talent. Not having heirs all this while, the immense pressure on the husband and wife pair could be imagined. Jieyu's claws would go soft facing White Light. It was originally too great on a psychological level. Continuing to pressure him, the old dragon's claws would go even softer. Lin Feng looked at Jieyu rather speechlessly. For a moment, he actually had a somewhat speechless feeling. Only after quite a while did he pop out a sentence. "Useless man, no useless male dragon." Jieyu covered his face with both hands, and did not even dare to make a sound. He was so ashamed that he nearly dug a hole to bury himself. Lin Feng looked up to the sky and heaved a long sigh. Sighing, he started musing. When Jieyu saw that Lin Feng did not laugh at him, his mind calmed down a little. Looking at Lin Feng, he could not help having some more hope in his heart. Could it be that Sect Master possesses remarkable abilities and can even resolve this matter? After a moment, Lin Feng's gaze looked over towards Jieyu. A warm and genial smile akin to the sunshine in spring surfaced on his face. "It really works?" Jieyu looked at Lin Feng's smile, and hope rose in his heart. But at the same time his back unconsciously felt somewhat cold, as if something not too good was about to befall him. Lin Feng said in a harmonious voice, Ah, Jieyu, go back and rest first. You've also done your best these few days in my Xianmen Tianzong. This seat won't treat you shabbily. Thank you, sect master. The old dragon was slightly perturbed as he bowed to Lin Feng, then turned around and left. He was in a state of unease and did not realize that he was walking on a straight line. Lin Feng looked at Jieyu's back as he left, and the smile on his face became more and more radiant. This kind of thing needs to be done by a professional. Thinking of this, Lin Feng used his mana and called Xiao Yan over from Burning Heaven Cliff. Xiao Yan had been cultivating in seclusion during this period of time. His cultivation did not improve much, but the foundation of his Dao technique realm was becoming more and more stable. Previously, he had always been brave and diligent in his cultivation, but it was inevitable that his foundation was not strong enough. This time he was trapped in the calamity of the true fire, so he simply patiently and carefully polished his own mana cultivation. After a period of precipitation, his whole person was like steel that was quenched, his spirit and appearance were completely new. Although at the moment, in order to balance the true fire that was causing chaos in his body, he still could not easily fight with others. However, he could move freely, and on the surface, there were no major problems. His control of the true fire was also becoming more and more skillful. Once he passed through the calamity of the Yin wind and advanced to the late stage of the golden elixir, he would be able to completely refine and control the three great true fires in his body. Master, you were looking for me? Xiao Yan asked curiously. Lin Feng nodded. There is a matter that you can handle. Although he was trapped in the calamity of the true fire, Xiao Yan's heroic spirit did not diminish. Master, please tell me, this disciple will definitely do his best. Lin Feng nodded with satisfaction and smiled. Using his mana, he sent a message to Xiao Yan's ears. Xiao Yan suddenly widened his eyes. Mas, master. For a moment, Xiao Yan suspected that he was hallucinating. Lin Feng's expression was as calm as usual as he repeated it again. Xiao Yan was completely petrified at this moment. He looked at Lin Feng in a daze and said with some difficulty, Mas? Fu. Lin Feng said indifferently. Jieyu's wife went up the mountain to look for her husband. You already know about this matter. Xiao Yan did not understand why Lin Feng suddenly mentioned something that seemed to be completely unrelated, but he still replied, Yes, this disciple knows. He could not help but laugh. This old dragon is really miserable, marrying such a wife who is like a female Yiksha. Lin Feng said in all seriousness, Don't make fun of Jieyu, you only know one thing and not the other. He then told him about the problem between Jieyu and White Light. At first Xiao Yan found it funny when he heard it, but as he listened he gradually sighed. Every family has its own difficulties. Looking at his expression, Lin Feng knew that Xiao Yan was thinking about how Xiao Zhen did not abandon him after a genius became a waste in Wuzhou City. But because of this it attracted even more people to mock him as a fresh flower stuck on cow dung. With Xiao Yan resonating with this, Lin Feng knew that there was most likely a chance. So, this matter that Master is asking you to do now is for the sake of them. When Xiao Yan, who was originally still sighing, heard this, his face immediately turned bitter again. Master, but this is too. That you're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.